Chapter 871. Death of an Overlord. Chapter 871. Death of an Overlord. Don't fret, continue to gather your spirit consciousness and release your secret skill. Suddenly, a voice sounded in Xueqi's mind. The voice sounded familiar, but he could not recall where he knew it from. Immediately after, a tremendous amount of pure essence spirit power surged into his consciousness and helped him to stabilize the Reappearance seal that was about to disperse. The essence spirit power was rich and pure with a mild burning sensation. Xueqi's essence spirit seemed incomparably insignificant in the face of this amount of energy. The swastika symbol on his glabella that had initially dissipated into golden spots and was scattered everywhere, on the verge of complete dispersion. However, with the support of that essence spirit power, Sanskrit sounded in Xueqi's consciousness once again and the phantom figure of the gigantic Buddha materialized. The golden spots that were initially dispersed converged rapidly and formed an ancient symbol that radiated with a blinding golden glow. The moment the golden symbol descended, the entire world seemed as though it was frozen. The symbol carried a shuddering and frightening aura. The voids were caving in. There was no power that could stand in the path of the golden symbol. The Reappearance seal suppressed everything. Ah! The Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak shrieked and his eyes widened with disbelief. There was no way a low-level fiend demon could release an essence spirit secret skill as such. With no time to hesitate, the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak channeled his weakened essence spirit and released another essence spirit secret skill to meet the golden symbol that was floating over in midair. The two essence spirit secret skills clashed in midair. However, there was no sound. The void around the collision distorted. Right in front of Xueqi's eyes, the essence spirit secret skill released by the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak was suppressed with ease by the golden symbol. It was crushed into dust and dissipated. The golden symbol merely paused briefly in midair before it printed itself onto the glabella of the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak and vanished within. The Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak jolted. The next moment, his gaze froze up and dimmed. His expression stiffened and his life force dissipated at a rapid pace. Without dharmic power to suppress the wound on his broken arm, it split open and blood gushed out in a stream. The Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak fell forward stiffly. Bang! He laid on the ground motionlessly. Although his eyes were widened, there was no light in them at all. The anaconda tendon on Xueqi's body slid down as though they were no longer controlled. With his freedom returned to him, Xueqi scanned his spirit consciousness across the body of the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak. All he felt was the stench of death without any life force at all. Xueqi peered into the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak's consciousness with his spirit consciousness and his heart skipped a beat. The Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak's consciousness was dried up and reeked of death. There was an essence spirit that was split apart and completely destroyed. An Overlord had fallen. Even after he recalled his spirit consciousness from the consciousness of the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak, Xueqi was still in shock and could not recover for a period of time. That was the power of an essence spirit secret skill. Although the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak's head was completely fine without any wounds, his essence spirit was shattered completely by the Reappearance seal. Of course, this was not Xueqi's power. If the tremendous amount of pure essence spirit power had not surged in, he would have been the one dead on the ground at this moment. Xueqi took a deep breath and tried his best to compose himself. He surveyed his surroundings and asked in a probing manner, "Senior? Collect this demon's storage bag and get out of this place first." The voice echoed in Xueqi's mind once again. It was calm with a hint of antiquity. Xueqi's heart skipped a beat. He was not clear of danger yet. The commotion here was great. The high-level fiend demons they left behind earlier must have already noticed and were most likely on their way over. The longer he lingered here, the more danger he would be in. Xueqi's essence spirit had just released the Reappearance seal and his body received a strong blow from the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak. As such, his bones and tendons were aching terribly. Right now, his essence spirit and physical body were at their weakest. A single high-level fiend demon could kill him right now, let alone the fact that more than 10 were coming. Xueqi staggered and ran to the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak. He retrieved the latter's storage bag and put it away. This was the storage bag of an Overlord and there was bound to be a lot of good stuff within. Su Zimo pondered for a moment and cut off a leg from the goat and stashed it into the storage bag. He scanned his surroundings and fled in a direction. As he sprinted, Su Zimo asked softly, "Senior, are you still there?" "Yes." "Where?" "In your body." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he almost stumbled over. This time round, the person did not send a voice transmission through spirit consciousness. Su Zimo could clearly hear that the voice came from within his body. To be precise, it was his left wrist. A spark jolted in Su Zimo's mind and he had a hunch. Right then, the voice suddenly sounded. "Change your direction. There are 2 high-level fiend demons 100 kilometers in front of you." Su Zimo paused hurriedly. "To the left." The voice reminded him again. Without hesitation, Su Zimo sprinted to the left. However, his essence spirit and physical body were both extremely weak and his movement technique was sluggish. All of a sudden, a tremendous spirit consciousness emanated from his left wrist and enveloped his physical body. It rode with the wind at an extremely fast speed and vanished from the spot before long. The wind howled. Su Zimo relaxed his body and saw the shadows of trees fleeting by him rapidly. The spirit consciousness maneuvered him with twists and turns, avoiding countless dangers in the interim before finally settling down around a secluded cave. Su Zimo understood what he needed to do and headed in. The moment he entered the cave, Su Zimo looked at his left wrist delightedly. He suppressed his overwhelming emotions and asked softly, "Senior Extreme Fire, is that you?" The moment he said that, a scarlet glow burst forth from the Ming Wang prayer bead Su Zimo wore on his left wrist and stopped in midair. The scarlet glow revealed its true appearance. It was the size of a thumb and seemed like it was burning with fire. Its aura was powerful as it looked at Su Zimo with a smile and a bright gaze. This essence spirit was from Tao Lord Extreme Fire, whom Su Zimo encountered more than 100 years ago in the cold lake within Songlang mountain range. Back then, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was inflicted with toxic poison and was on the verge of death. He was trapped motionlessly beneath the cold lake and endured bitterly for 5,000 years. Eventually, he met Su Zimo and left behind some belongings and messages for Su Zimo. With that, he let go of his final attachments in life and departed in a carefree manner. It could be said that a large part of Su Zimo's later accomplishments had to do with the legacy left behind for him by Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Everything else aside, Night Spirit was left behind for Su Zimo by Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Later on, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's essence spirit no longer had any life force after due to the toxic poison. The single Ming Wang prayer bead on Su Zimo's hand turned warm. Su Zimo made a test attempt and the essence spirit of Tao Lord Extreme Fire transformed into a streak of light, absorbed by the Ming Wang prayer bead. Later on, there had been no activity. Although Su Zimo had cultivated to the nascent soul realm, he was still unable to refine the Ming Wang prayer beads properly. His spirit consciousness could not probe within, and he naturally did not know about what was going on within. To think that Tao Lord Extreme Fire was reborn and saved him once again at this critical juncture. Chapter 872. Mystery of the Rebirth. Chapter 872. Mystery of the Rebirth. Senior, how are you? Although Su Zimo was delighted at Tao Lord Extreme Fire's rebirth, he had many questions in his mind. How was the poison on Tao Lord Extreme Fire dispelled? When did he awaken? Has he recovered fully? As though he could read Su Zimo's mind, Tao Lord Extreme Fire smiled gently and said, "Rest and recuperate first. I'll explain everything slowly." Su Zimo nodded. After a momentary silence, he whisked out the gigantic goat leg he cut off earlier and chuckled. "I'll be fine after eating a roasted lamb leg." He was not being a glutton. The goat leg in his hands was the flesh of an overlord and was a great tonic. Furthermore, Su Zimo possessed frightening innate regeneration capabilities. As long as he absorbed the energy of an overlord's flesh completely, his wounds would be mostly healed by then. At the nascent soul realm, demons could consume the essence of the sun and the moon. Human cultivators are able to consume sunlight and dew as well and could achieve the state of anedia without consuming any physical food. However, the goat leg was not only a great tonic, it was also a rare delicacy. There was no way Su Zimo would let this chance pass. Su Zimo took out his bronze square tripod and circulated his spirit consciousness to conjure a ball of flames. He tossed it into the tripod and hung the goat leg on it. Before long, the cave was filled with the fragrance of barbecued meat. Su Zimo reached out and tore a piece off without fear of burning his hand. He placed it in his mouth and chewed in huge mouthfuls, feeling the essence of blood chi enter his stomach and cruise through his limbs. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was only an essence spirit without a physical body, and naturally could not enjoy this experience. When he looked at the flame within the bronze square tripod, Tao Lord Extreme Fire seemed to have thought of something and looked at Su Zimo's right hand with a wary expression. He asked, "Your right hand is a divine phoenix bone, right?" "Yes." Su Zimo nodded and did not lie. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said sternly, "When the divine phoenix bone was triggered earlier on, the power it released was extremely scary and was at the conjoint body realm." Su Zimo was shocked. Conjoint bodies were almost the strongest existences in Tianhuang mainland. Conjoint body cultivators were referred to as mighty figures, and every single action they made possessed the might of heaven and earth. Unfortunately, given his current cultivation realm, he could not trigger the power of the divine phoenix bone. He could not use the divine phoenix bone trump card as and when he wanted either. It was mostly passive, and its shocking effect could only be triggered by the strength of his opponent. "There's no need to hurry." Tao Lord Extreme Fire consoled him, "Since this piece of divine bone is within your body, there will naturally come a day when you will be able to utilize its power on your own." Tao Lord Extreme Fire looked at Su Zimo and felt emotional when he recalled the circumstances of their first encounter. To think that after more than 100 years, the young man of the past would be at this stage right now. Tao Lord Extreme Fire gazed into the distance with a nostalgic look in his eyes as he said slowly, "Actually, it's all thanks to the Ming Wang prayer beads on your hand that I'm able to survive." There's no wonder why the Ming Wang prayer beads are treasures that are able to support Daming Monastery. They truly possess the ability of resurrection by altering fate against the heavens. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said, "The Ming Wang prayer beads were created from the trunks of immortal and soul-nourishing wood on Tianhuang mainland. They have the extraordinary effect of nourishing one's soul and essence spirit. My essence spirit was initially doomed because of the toxic poison. To think that it was nourished after entering this prayer bead and managed to survive instead." When he spoke about that, Tao Lord Extreme Fire felt a surge of emotions. Su Zimo gazed at the Ming Wang prayer beads on his left wrist and recalled about the past as well. Back then, he was still a Foundation establishment cultivator who entered the inheritance ground of the Fiend sex with Demoness G and fought against the Fiend heirs. To think that an unforeseen event broke out later on. A skeleton crawled out from an ancient coffin in the blood pool and nearly killed all of them within. He hid inside the stone coffin that the skeleton was buried in with Demoness G. It fell into the underground river and they managed to survive. That Ming Wang prayer bead was found within the stone coffin. Suddenly, Su Zimo's expression changed. The old monk at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley had once explained to him the reason why the Ming Wang prayer beads were lost. Several dozen thousand years ago, two paragons, the Tao Lord Blood Fiend and Monk Daming fought. Eventually, both of them disappeared with their fates unknown. The Ming Wang prayer beads were lost because of that as well. Later on, Daming Monastery retrieved 3 of them with another 3 missing outside. One of them was the one Su Zimo found in the stone coffin. Within that stone coffin, there was also an extremely evil cultivation technique, the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. The skeleton that crawled out of the stone coffin later on was incomparable domineering, and consumed the flesh and blood of many living beings directly. The cultivation technique it used was the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra. In that case, the identity of the skeleton was clear. It was Tao Lord Blood Fiend. The ultimate fiend that massacred the world dozens of thousand years ago had not truly died. Furthermore, there was a high chance that he was reborn. It was not hard to imagine. After that earth-shaking battle with Monk Daming, Tao Lord Blood Fiend lost and was severely injured. As such, he hid within the Ming Wang prayer bead with his essence spirit and nourished himself within slowly. It was most likely because of the Ming Wang prayer bead that he was able to survive to this era as well. That was also why Su Zimo was able to find that Buddha bead in the stone coffin. In that case, the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra in the coffin should have been etched by Tao Lord Blood Fiend as well. Everything seemed to make sense. However, Su Zimo was still puzzled. Why was that Ming Wang prayer bead left behind in the stone coffin? Was it truly a coincidence? Furthermore, when they first encountered the stone coffin, there were gigantic chains coiled around its surface. Who left those chains behind? It was clear that the purpose of the chains was to trap Dao Lord Bloodfiend. However, why would there be a Mingwang prayer bead left behind in the stone coffin in that case? Or rather, why did the cultivator that left behind the chains not kill Dao Lord Bloodfiend outright? Naturally, Dao Lord Extreme Fire did not know what Su Zimo was thinking about at the moment and continued speaking. The first time I awakened was actually at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley. Su Zimo was momentarily stunned. He truly had not expected Dao Lord Extreme Fire to be awakened that early. Although my essence spirit was nourished after it entered the soul-nourishing wood, the poison in me was not dispelled and I was still in a comatose state. Dao Lord Extreme Fire said, "The old monk at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley was the one who helped me to dispel the poison within." At that point, Su Zimo was enlightened. Back at the bottom of the Dragon Burial Valley, the old monk exclaimed softly upon receiving Su Zimo's Mingwang prayer bead, as though he sensed something. When Su Zimo asked at the moment, the old monk gave an ambiguous reply and did not explain things. In hindsight, the old monk had already noticed Dao Lord Extreme Fire at that time and conveniently saved the latter. Dao Lord Extreme Fire said, "Although I was awakened, my essence spirit was afflicted by the toxic poison for many years and was still extremely weak. I had almost no strength and could not offer you any help. I've watched your journey in battles throughout all these years. You did well. You did not disappoint the reputation of the human race back in Myriad Phenomenon City." Su Zimo shook his head gently with a dejected expression when he thought back about that battle. "Although I won that battle, countless cultivators caught sight of my demon form. There might be no place left for me in the cultivation world." "There's no need to worry," Dao Lord Extreme Fire said deeply. "Other sects aside, I can make the decision for 100 Refinement Sect to write your name and protect you from danger." Chapter 873. Dharma Characteristic Realms Physical Body. Chapter 873. Dharma Characteristic Realms Physical Body. Dao Lord Extreme Fire's words were firm, resolute and powerful. It was clear that he was not bothered by Su Zimo's demonic cultivation. More than that, he did not even care about the major sects or factions that had feuds with Su Zimo. Su Zimo was touched and expressed his gratitude hurriedly. At that moment, he had yet to realize the weight of Dao Lord Extreme Fire's words. He did not know what sort of a character Dao Lord Extreme Fire was in the cultivation world 5,000 years ago either. After all, in Su Zimo's opinion, no matter how strong Dao Lord Extreme Fire was, the latter was merely a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord. His cultivation realm was the same as the old immortal crane, and there was no way he could protect Su Zimo. Previously, in the Battle of Ethereal Peak, the old immortal crane managed to achieve a breakthrough and became a high-level fiend demon that was equivalent to a Dharma characteristic Dao Lord. However, Ethereal Peak was insignificant against a massive force like Glass Palace. Notwithstanding Glass Palace, even against the 10 upper sects of the North region, Ethereal Peak was weak and had no right to speak at all. Su Zimo truly had no other choice when he left the North region previously. In the battle at the Great Qian Ruins, he offended almost everyone from the 10 upper sects, aristocratic families and gentry clans. If he continued to stay on in the North region, Ethereal Peak would definitely protect him with all their might. However, that would also bring about great trouble for Ethereal Peak. They would be destroyed instantly and the loss of their legacy would result in them disappearing from the cultivation world. However, Su Zimo did not know that 100 Refinement Sect was not the same as Ethereal Peak. Dao Lord Extreme Fire was not the same as the old immortal crane as well. Su Zimo noticed that Dao Lord Extreme Fire's essence spirit had a powerful aura and seemed like he had already recovered to the Dharma characteristic realm. "Senior, has your cultivation recovered fully already?" "Not yet, I'm only around 80% at best." Dao Lord Extreme Fire smiled gently. "Initially, I thought that I would require several hundred years to recover my cultivation. To think that I benefited quite a bit from the opportunity you just received as well." "Just." Su Zimo froze momentarily and was enlightened instantly. It was no wonder why he felt a suction power from his left wrist within the 1,000-year blood sea as well. At that time, he released the Blood Refinement Fiend Sutra and was encircled by the young master of Levitating Goat Peak and 5 others. Later on, He nearly became a complete fiend and did not think about the issue deeply. To think that apart from the massive boost to his cultivation realm, the energy accumulated by the 1,000-year Blood Sea managed to benefit Tao Lord Extreme Fire as well. Actually, the energy accumulated within the Blood Sea originally was not enough to recover my cultivation. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said. However, 7 high-level fiend demons entered the Blood Sea and died sinisterly later on. That caused the energy level in the Blood Sea to rise significantly and provided me with sufficient energy. The reason why I did not make a move while you were escaping was because I was absorbing the tremendous amount of energy within the Blood Sea. That Overlord was truly strong. If I did not recover at least 80% of my combat strength, it would have been difficult to kill him as well. That was the reason why I did not attack recklessly. At that point, Tao Lord Extreme Fire shook his head gently and lamented, however, aren't you a little too gusty? You're only at the nascent soul realm and yet you wanted to kill an overlord that was 2 major realms above you. Really now? Su Zimo felt a sense of trepidation when he recounted the events as well. An overlord was much stronger than he had imagined. He released all his trump cards and even managed to trigger the Divine Phoenix's Claw by accident. Yet, he was still unable to kill the overlord of Levitating Goat Peaks. If not for Tao Lord Extreme Fire, he would have died already. Although he gained immense benefits during this Blood Sea cultivation trip, it was extremely treacherous as well. Not only was he hunted down by an overlord, there seemed to be a latent danger within that sinister Blood Sea too. The 7 high-level fiend demons died in mysterious manners, killed with their essence spirits destroyed instantly by the bubbles from the bottom of the sea. Was it truly just a coincidence that those seemingly harmless bubbles brushed past him? Su Zimo felt a sense of trepidation when he thought about that scene. Senior, that Blood Sea. The moment Su Zimo spoke, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's expression changed and he interrupted the former, "Don't ever return to that place. There's definitely something extremely terrifying at the bottom of the Blood Sea." Tao Lord Extreme Fire said solemnly. If even Tao Lord Extreme Fire said so, Su Zimo realized that the secret within the Blood Sea was definitely not something he could deal with at his cultivation realm. After a moment of silence, Su Zimo looked at Tao Lord Extreme Fire worriedly and asked in a soft voice, "Senior, what about your physical body?" At the Void Reversion or Dharma characteristic realm, one would not die even with the loss of their physical body. However, their combat strength would weaken and they would not be able to release many dharmic arts without their physical body. Furthermore, without the protection of their physical body, one's essence spirit would become extremely fragile exposed to the outside world. It was like somebody who was floating in a turbulent ocean without the protection of a spirit vessel. He could die at any moment. There were 2 ways of obtaining a physical body. The first was through assimilation. However, the requirements for assimilation were stringent and the assimilated being's cultivation realm must not be 2 loads. The assimilation process was extremely dangerous as well and one could be consumed instead if they were careless. Furthermore, every cultivator could only attempt a single assimilation try in their lifetime. The second was to obtain a perfectly intact physical body at the Dharma characteristic realm. However, that was no easy task at all. What sort of existences were Dharma characteristics? It was extremely difficult to obtain their physical bodies. Furthermore, let alone a perfectly preserved Dharma characteristic physical body. The greatest possibility for that was if a Dharma characteristic cultivator was killed by an essence spirit secret skill. With that, their essence spirit would be destroyed with their physical body intact. When he heard Su Zimo's question, Tao Lord Extreme Fire swept his glance onto Su Zimo's body and asked with a fake smile, "You're not worried that I might assimilate your body?" Su Zimo froze for a moment and shook his head right away. Back in Songlang Mountain Range, Tao Lord Extreme Fire saved his life. Earlier on, Tao Lord Extreme Fire did it again. Su Zimo did not believe that Tao Lord Extreme Fire would attempt assimilation on him. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's expression was beguiling and his voice suddenly turned sinister as he said creepily, "Although the difference in cultivation realm between us is way too great, your physique and bloodline is almost perfect and unmatched in history. It's an absolute gain for me if I assimilate you. As long as I cultivate further, I'll be able to recover to my initial self and my combat strength will be superior in fact." Su Zimo let out a chuckle and shook his head still. When Tao Lord Extreme Fire saw how firm Su Zimo was, he no longer scared the latter and returned to his normal expression. "I'm relieved that you are able to trust me. However, I've still got to remind you. At this point of your cultivation, your physique is frightening and unparalleled. There isn't any cultivator in the world that wouldn't be tempted, me included. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was speaking from the bottom of his heart completely by saying that. Tao Lord Extreme Fire continued. The cultivation world is extremely ruthless and only the fittest shall survive. Although I'm not going to assimilate you, it doesn't mean that other cultivators won't as well. Although I saved you, there's a chance that I might have other motives as well. You must be careful in the future and not trust others easily. Su Zimo nodded. In truth, the reason why he was so firm was not only because Tao Lord Extreme Fire had once saved him. More than that, it was because of his spirit perception. After cultivating the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the Great Wilderness, he was forced to survive in Songlang mountain range through countless bloodied battles. He walked past the gates of hell countless times on the brink of death and cultivated a unique sense that was unfathomable. That was Su Zimo's greatest backing. He could not sense Tao Lord Extreme Fire's killing intent at all through his spirit perception. Chapter 874. Phenomenon Reappearance. Chapter 874. Phenomenon Reappearance. At the end of the day, assimilation is not righteous and I'm filled with nothing but disdain for it. Although Tao Lord Extreme Fire's tone was calm, there was an indescribable pride within. If it was any ordinary cultivator, they would most likely resort to any means possible if they lost their physical bodies. Be it assimilation or any other method, nothing mattered as long as they could obtain a physical body. However, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was different. Although he lost his physical body, he did not lose the pride in his heart. Su Zimo said, if you give up on the method of assimilation, there is only one other way. However, I don't know where we could possibly find a Dharma characteristic physical body. His heart skipped a beat as he continued. There should be many people with the same circumstances as you, Senior. I wonder if there are any cultivators selling the physical bodies of Dharma characteristics. He had not cultivated to the Dharma characteristic realm and was not at that level yet. However, in his opinion, there was a high chance that there would be people selling such things since there were demands. Furthermore, it was a lucrative trade that was not to be underestimated. Tao Lord Extreme Fire nodded. You are smart. There is indeed the trade of selling physical bodies within the cultivation world. Originally, Tomb Sect was the only one doing it. Later on, Corpse Refinement Cult joined in as well. Tomb Sect. Su Zimo murmured. I've got a friend in Tomb Sect. If I meet him again, I can ask about it for you, Senior. However, his cultivation realm is similar to mine, so he might not be able to get a physical body at the Dharma characteristic realm. There's no need. Tao Lord Extreme Fire shook his head. Although I look down on assimilation, I don't wish to occupy a foreign body either. That way, even if I recover back to before, I won't be the same Tao Lord Extreme Fire anymore. Su Zimo nodded. Even if the essence spirit was the same, there would still be a difference eventually. Furthermore, both methods have similar pros and cons. Tao Lord Extreme Fire continued, be it assimilation or a traded Dharma characteristic physical body, the origin of their flesh and bloodlines are both different from the essence spirit. As such, it will be difficult for anyone to return to their previous peak state. Su Zimo roughly understood. No matter what, the loss of one's physical body was an irreversible loss. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said in a deep voice, actually, there's a third method apart from those two. Gather universal materials to reconstruct the skeleton and recast the flesh. Reconstruct the skeleton and recast the flesh. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat at the mention of those words. What sort of capabilities were those? Tao Lord Extreme Fire explained, actually, this is an ancient weapon refinement technique. Using the bones as the foundation and the organs as supplements, the bloodline is nourished and finally, the flesh is recast. Although the method sounds simple, the process is extremely complicated. The bones are reconstructed using universal materials, and the better the quality of the bones, the stronger the bloodline that is born. The stronger the organs are, the more terrifying the strength of the physical would be. Tao Lord Extreme Fire explained with clear details. To begin with, Su Zimo had a deep understanding towards weapon refinement, and he was immersed in the explanation. Unknowingly, 2 hours passed and daybreak gradually approached. Theoretically, this ancient technique of reconstructing a body was definitely a secret skill that was only passed down within 100 Refinement sect. However, for some unknown reason, Su Zimo had a feeling that Tao Lord Extreme Fire was imparting him the ancient technique intentionally. Furthermore, the latter was extremely detailed in his explanation, as though he was worried that Su Zimo might not understand. At that moment, Su Zimo was puzzled. Not long after, he finally understood the true intention of Tao Lord Extreme Fire. In order to reconstruct a body in the most ideal way, universal materials were the most important criteria. The better the quality of the materials used for reconstructing the skeleton, the more superior the body created. According to the words of Tao Lord Extreme Fire, if the spirit materials used for reconstruction of bones were connate treasures, there was a high chance that a set of connate bones could be created. Connate bones were comparable to connate dermic weapons. The bloodline and physical body created from the connate bones would create a connate Tao body. Of course, that was an ideal situation and was not realistic. Nobody in history had succeeded doing so either. What are your plans after this? Tao Lord Extreme Fire asked after explaining the method of reconstructing the bones and physical body. I've got to return and take a look at the situation of my sworn siblings. Su Zimo said deeply, if they are fine, I'll let them know that I'll be leaving Thousand Demon Valley first to escort you back to 100 Refinement sect. He had already been in the Thousand Demon Valley for 100 years. He did not know how the cultivation world had changed after 100 years. Of course, more than that, Su Zimo was concerned about his old friends back in the cultivation world as well as Xiaoning and Night Spirit. It was time to head back. He continued, Senior, don't worry. I'll definitely try my best to help you search for the 9 crucial materials used for reconstructing a body and bones. To begin with, Tao Lord Extreme Fire specialized in fire techniques. Therefore, the universal treasures he required to reconstruct a body were the 9 materials of Tianhuang mainland that possessed the strong fire attributes. Of course, these materials were extremely rare to come across. It was even more difficult if anyone wanted to gather the 9 of them. By now, Su Zimo had already consumed the flesh on the lamb's leg, and there was only a bone left. His injuries had mostly recovered. It's inconvenient for me to expose my essence spirit outside. It's better for me to remain hidden in the Mingwang prayer beads for now. With that said, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's essence spirit transformed into a streak of scarlet light and vanished into Su Zimo's left wrist. Su Zimo tidied his attire and headed out of the cave. More than 2 hours had passed and the high-level fiend demons that wanted to hunt him should have already left. I wonder how's the fight around the Blood Sea? Su Zimo murmured. He scanned his surroundings, determined his direction and decided to return to the vicinity of the Blood Sea to check things out. Right then, Su Zimo's expression changed. His heart raced without warning and the entire world seemed to have turned silent, as though something big was about to happen. There was a murderous aura within the forest. Su Zimo felt his chest turn stuffy and could not breathe properly. Danger seemed to be lurking everywhere. The most frightening thing was that his spirit perception seemed to be useless. Even his spirit perception was engulfed completely by the murderous aura in the forest. This sort of situation was extremely rare. Right then, Su Zimo sensed something and spun around, glaring into the distance. Ah! His heart skipped a beat and he exclaimed. In the horizon not far away, above the firmaments, ancient stars appeared one after another. They moved and spun in a chaotic trajectory. Stars in daylight. This universal phenomenon had reappeared once again. However, this time round, it was extremely close to Su Zimo. The stars in the firmaments shuffled chaotically and could not help but brush past one another, creating earth-shaking sounds. Lightning flashed and thunder boomed. Countless debris fell from the collision of the ancient stars. Engulfed in flames, these meteors descended upon Tianhuang mainland like a firestorm. Bang! 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 The ground quaked and the mountains shook, as though the heavens wanted to devastate this part of the world. What happened was way too shocking. Furthermore, everything happened right in front of Su Zimo. The stars seemed to be hovering above his head with a terrifying might as they shifted, collided and brushed past one another. The murderous aura filled the world. Instantly, It seemed as though all living beings in the Thousand Demon Valley kept silent out of fear. Under normal circumstances, the stars above the firmaments naturally had their individual trajectories. However, they would not brush past one another, let alone collide. Yet, at that moment, the stars in the skies were in complete chaos, as though they were being controlled by an invisible power. When the firmaments were filled with trouble, devastation would descend upon all living beings. Could it be? Right then, the voice of Tao Lord Extreme Fire sounded. A fiery scarlet streak of light floated out of the Mingwang prayer beads and Tao Lord Extreme Fire appeared once again. He looked up into the skies with a shocked expression and disbelief in his eyes. Chapter 875. 3 Great Sword Arts. Chapter 875. 3 Great Sword Arts. Stars in Daylight. This universal phenomenon had already appeared once before the Thousand Demon meet, and even the old ape did not know why. From Tao Lord Extreme Fire's current expression, it was clear that he knew something. Su Zimo could not help but ask, "Senior, what's the meaning behind this universal phenomenon?" "Make a move first. I'll explain to you along the way." Tao Lord Extreme Fire's essence spirit transformed into a scarlet streak of light and re-entered the Mingwang prayer beads. Su Zimo could tell that Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice seemed to be quivering slightly. He knew that this universal phenomenon was definitely far from simple. Su Zimo raised his head and looked at the position beneath the firmaments. It was extremely close to the 1,000-year Blood Sea. They might even come across Monkey and the others if they rushed over now. Su Zimo no longer hesitated and sped towards the direction in a flash. A moment later, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded. He seemed to have composed himself. "If I'm not wrong, a universal phenomenon as such means that an ancient sword art is about to be born." Ancient sword art. Su Zimo muttered softly. What sort of an ancient sword art would create such a great commotion and even trigger a universal phenomenon just with its appearance? Tao Lord Extreme Fire said in a deep voice, "In the ancient era, there were 3 great sword arts that possessed the strongest killing powers. Each time one manual was born, there would be an accompanying universal phenomenon. The 3 great ancient sword arts are the Heaven-Slaying Sword Art, Earth-Slaying Sword Art and Human-Slaying Sword Art." Su Zimo exclaimed softly and asked in a probing manner, "The 3 sword arts sound like they are connected." "You're not wrong," Tao Lord Extreme Fire explained. "Legend has it that the 3 great sword arts were originally one back in the primordial era. They possessed frightening killing power and was the #1 killing technique of the primordial era. In fact, it could slay immortals and fiend celestials alike. It's precisely because of the immense killing power of the sword classic that it was struck by karma and divine retribution. It was divided into 3 and was later on known in the ancient era as the 3 great sword arts." Su Zimo was alarmed. Although the sword classic was divided into 3, it could still become the 3 great ancient sword arts and bring about universal phenomenons. It was hard to imagine the original power of the sword classic. "These are all enigmas of the primordial era that I had no access of originally." Tao Lord Extreme Fire continued, "However, I entered a primordial ruin by accident 5,000 years ago. In there, I read about the records and legends of this matter." Suddenly, Su Zimo was enlightened. Back when he first met Tao Lord Extreme Fire in the cold lake in Songlang Mountain Range, the latter recounted to Su Zimo the tale of how he entered a ruin and was hurt and poisoned by the living beings inside such that he almost died from it. So, the ruin was a primordial ruin. In that case, since Night Spirit was brought out by Tao Lord Extreme Fire from that primordial ruin, there was a high chance that Night Spirit was a life form from the primordial era as well. It was no wonder why Su Zimo could not find any records related to Night Spirit, even after searching through all the ancient books in Ethereal Peak. Most life forms from the primordial era have already gone extinct and there were no traces of them left. Even many supersects in the cultivation world might not have any records of them, and these life forms were merely described with brief sentences, let alone Ethereal Peak. Tao Lord Extreme Fire seemed slightly emotional once again at the mention of the primordial ruin. It was as though he still had a feeling of trepidation when he recalled his past experience. Su Zimo steered the topic away and asked, "The Heaven, Earth and Human-Slaying Sword Arts. From their names it seems like the Human-Slaying Sword Art is the weakest." "You're mistaken." Tao Lord Extreme Fire shook his head. Among the three great sword arts, the human-slaying sword art has the strongest killing power. It is said that the might of the heaven-slaying sword art is comparable to divine powers. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. The divine powers Tao Lord Extreme Fire were referring to were not the innate divine powers that were comprehended by fiend demons upon advancement to high-level fiend demons. They were the divine powers that were comprehended by human cultivators after cultivating to the Mahayana realm to become patriarchs. The human-slaying sword art possessed the might of the Mahayana realm. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said softly, "In the primordial ruin, there are 3 sentences describing the 3 sword arts. When the heaven's killing intent is released, the stars are shifted out of alignment. When the earth's killing intent is released, the dragon snake shall rise. When the human's killing intent is released, heaven and earth shall topple." Su Zimo gazed at the chaotic star alignments in the firmament and was suddenly enlightened, remarking softly, "The heaven-slaying sword art is the one being born this time round." "That's right," Tao Lord Extreme Fire replied. "You must definitely get your hands on this sword art. If you're able to comprehend it, your combat strength will definitely explode." Su Zimo frowned slightly. However, the commotion here is so great and the overlords held the 1,000 demon meet in the vicinity. It's probably too late for me to get there. Furthermore, if I want to steal the heaven-slaying sword art away from the watch of so many overlords and countless fiend demons, that's probably going to be extremely difficult. Su Zimo was clear that with his current strength, it was unrealistic to think that he could fight against the overlords and so many fiend demons to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. It was true that he had Tao Lord Extreme Fire assisting him now. However, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's combat strength was limited with the loss of his physical body. It was impossible for him to fight against the overlords with just his essence spirit. "No worries," Tao Lord Extreme Fire said. "Don't forget, the fiend demons of Thousand Demon Valley probably do not know the reason behind the stars in daylight yet. That is your true chance." Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he nodded to himself. During this short while, he had already rushed to the area beneath the firmament. Before him, a strong blood stench reeked. Many living beings must have fallen there. After sprinting for a while more, it could be seen in the distant skies ahead that there were several hundred fiend demons with gigantic bodies killing one another in midair. Roar! Roar! The roars of the fiend demons rocked the entire world. Even the void in the battlefield in midair was beginning to contort. That was a massive battle between high-level fiend demons. Among them, there were 6 figures that were particularly striking. Their auras were powerful and swept through the 9 heavens. Every single move they made caused the voids to vibrate. There was an old ape that towered at over 100 feet tall. His fur was grayish-white and he looked like he was old and in his twilight years. However, his gaze burned and he overwhelmed everyone with a blinding golden rod in his hands. Beside him, there was a bull engulfed in golden flames. He wielded a black 3-pronged halberd and barged through the demons with an unstoppable edge. The 2 overlords fought together and their combat strength was torrential. It was clear that they had suppressed the overlords of Silver Moon Valley, Thousand Snake Island, Confusion Mist Swamp and Vermilion Cloud Valley. Su Zimo shifted his gaze down and heaved in a breath. Beneath the 6 overlords, the ground cracked and gigantic fissures appeared in a frightening manner, emitting a sinister black wind. The ground was slowly protruding upwards. It was as though there was a massive unknown object that was trying to crawl out from underground. Crack, crack, crack. As time passed by, the protrusion on the ground enlarged and the number of fissures increased as well. Countless fiend demons stood outside the perimeter and did not dare to advance. An unknown period of time passed. All of a sudden, the world seemed to have gone silent. The next moment, the ground exploded and mud overturned. Like the explosion of a volcano, rays of resplendent light shot forth in a powerful manner. Instantly, divine lights filled the world and spread through the surroundings. Chapter 876, Thousand Demon Tomb. Chapter 876, Thousand Demon Tomb. Shoo, shoo, shoo. The divine lights shot through the air and resplendent light shone everywhere. Although Su Zimo stood in the distance, his eyesight was extremely powerful. When he focused his gaze, he could not help but froze on the spot. The rays of resplendent light consisted of many dermic weapons. There were long needles, bone sabers, flying swords, bronze tripods and many other varieties. A fiend demon that was caught unprepared was pierced through the body by a ray of light. Instantly, a hole appeared with blood gushing out as he shrieked. Another fiend demon circulated his dermic art and demonic chi rumbled as he suppressed a ray of light. When he focused his gaze, his eyes lit up. The ray of light was a flying sword. It was a Dao being dermic weapon. Furthermore, there were 5 dermic patterns on it. It was a perfect grade Dao being dermic weapon. Even in the human cultivation world, a dermic weapon of this quality was extremely rare to obtain, let alone in the world of demons. Ha 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 ha. The demon gripped the flying sword and reared his head in abundant laughter. Poof! His laughter came to a stop. The fiend demon's head was pierced by a poison needle and his face turned green in the blink of an eye. His essence spirit was poisoned and died on the spot before it could escape from the physical body. A woman from Thousand Snake Island picked up the perfect grade Dao being dermic weapon and fled swiftly. The other fiend demons that caught sight of this soared into the air and used various methods to capture the divine streaks of light in the air. Mine is also a perfect dermic weapon. Ah! It's a supreme grade dermic weapon. You must have a death wish. How dare you take my dermic weapon? The exclamations of demons echoed as massacres broke out everywhere. Some of the fiend demons were encircled by other fiend demons the moment they obtained a dermic weapon, and the dermic weapons were taken away right away as well. Chi! A streak of light tore through the air towards Su Zimo's direction and arrived instantly. Su Zimo's expression changed as he reached out to grab the streak of divine light. It was not a dermic weapon, but a scarlet rock that gave off an incomparably scorching aura. It was slightly scalding to the touch. Furthermore, Su Zimo gripped it with his right hand and the divine phoenix bone within was reacting slightly. What's that? He scanned it up and down but could not see anything from it. Hold on. Dao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded. That's a scarlet phoenix blood ore. It's a rare material with utmost yang and flame attributes in the cultivation world. Hurry and keep it. If Dao Lord Extreme Fire wanted to reconstruct a set of skeleton that was suitable for his Dao and dermic powers, he would require 9 rare materials with utmost yang and fire attributes. The scarlet phoenix blood ore was one of them. Legend has it that the scarlet phoenix blood ore is a rock that has been soaked in the blood of a phoenix. Eventually formed after dozens of thousands of years, it was easy to see how rare this material was. Even money might not be able to purchase such a rare material in the marketplace of the cultivation world. Su Zimo had not expected to come across a piece of it in the Thousand Demon Valley. Previously, he absorbed quite a bit of dragon vein back in the astral dragon sputum lair in the ancient battlefield. Unknowingly, the fortune augmentation on him must have had some effect as well. Hand over that treasure. Right then, the sound of clothes fluttering through the air echoed. 7 fiend demons were charging over. They followed the divine light released by the scarlet phoenix blood ore. Su Zimo swept his gaze and could not help but sneer when he sensed that the 7 of them were mid-level fiend demons. He flipped his palm and put away the scarlet phoenix blood ore immediately. You must have a death wish. What was that treasure you hid away? A fiend demon approached with killing intent on his face as he pointed at Su Zimo and shouted. The other few fiend demons encircled Su Zimo rapidly with hostile expressions as well. Before long, the expression on one of their faces changed. He pointed at Su Zimo with widened eyes of disbelief and asked in a quivering voice, Why you're more, aren't you? You're not dead? All the demons witnessed Su Zimo fleeing with blood escape previously with the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak hot on his tails. To all of them, Su Zimo was definitely doomed since he was targeted by an Overlord. However, to think that Su Zimo managed to return alive. At the mention of Mo, the remaining few fiend demons also jumped in shock and retreated hurriedly. Only a fiend demon from Levitating Goat Peak that stood at the front remained motionless. Instead, he looked at the remaining fiend demons with mocking expressions and declared loudly, Why are all of you so scared because of a low-level fiend demon? How shameful! Brother Yang, you arrived late and did not witness this demon's capabilities. A fiend demon tried to explain hurriedly. Unexpectedly, the fiend demon of Levitating Goat Peak interrupted with a stifled chuckle. How capable can a low-level fiend demon be? If he doesn't hand that treasure over to me today, I'm going to. What are you going to do? A voice calm and cold sounded in the ears of the fiend demon of Levitating Goat Peak. Pest! The fiend demon of Levitating Goat Peak gasped. Unknowingly, Xueqi had already appeared before him. It was too fast. Without hesitation, the fiend demon of Levitating Goat Peak wanted to condense an essence spirit secret skill. Unexpectedly, Xueqi roared, "Get lost!" His voice was like thunder. The figure of the fiend demon of Levitating Goat Peak shuddered, and he froze before he could complete his essence spirit secret skill. In that brief period of time, Xueqi had already advanced with the momentum and slapped the demon on the head. Piak! The demon's head cracked open and the essence spirit within ruptured into pieces right away. Xueqi did not stop and had already sped forward. By the time the few fiend demons snapped out of their stupor, all they were left with was a fleeing back view. Why are there so many dermic weapons flying out all of a sudden? What exactly is hidden underground? Xueqi muttered softly. This time round, even Tao Lord Extreme Fire did not reply, as though he was seemingly perplexed over what was going on as well. Boom! Right then, another explosion sounded from the ground. The ground shook and the mountains trembled. The already protruding ground exploded completely with a dark rumbling aura, revealing a large burial ground underneath. Countless corpses that seemed to be from a long time ago were amassed within. The flesh on the corpses had already rotted. Even their storage bags were destroyed. Countless dermic weapons were scattered between the corpses. Most of them were dim without light and only a few glowed faintly. It was a huge tomb underground. From the massive skeletons in the tomb, it could be deduced that almost all of the dead corpses originated from demons. Something must have happened here in the past that caused so many demons to be buried in this huge tomb with corpses strewn everywhere. The ground in the surrounding was already dyed red, and it was horrific. The many high-level fiend demons and overlords who were originally fighting in midair paused as well. They gazed down at the tomb with solemn expressions. Their gazes flickered with bewilderment. Suddenly, the old ape reached out and grabbed hold of a blood-colored rock at the edge of the tomb. It was grisly red and reeked of blood. That's the 1,000 demon blood crystal. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in Xueqi's mind with a hint of shock. There must be at least several dozen thousand demons buried in this tomb for 1,000 demon blood crystal to be formed. Only that amount of blood is enough to create 1,000 demon blood crystal. Xueqi's heart skipped a beat. This place was actually a pit buried with dozens of thousands of demons in the past and a torrential dark aura that was almost corporeal. Only after all this time did it finally see the day of light. The stars above the firmaments became even more chaotic. Countless stars flickered between light and darkness as though they were about to descend. A murderous aura spread through the demon tomb. Chapter 877, Birth of the Sword Art. Chapter 877, Birth of the Sword Art. The ground split open and 1,000 demon tomb was exposed. Apart from countless bones within, there were also many treasures. Greed filled the eyes of many fiend demons. Finally, somebody could not hold back any longer and charged forward right away. Thereafter, all the demons swarmed forward towards the 1,000 demon tomb. Demonic chi rumbled. Many demonic arts and weapons clashed in midair and chaos ensued. Up in the skies, the 6 overlords frowned. All of them felt uneasy about something but could not pinpoint the reason why. Something is wrong. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in Xueqi's mind. The murderous aura of the 1,000 demon tomb is way too intense. Many of those fiend demons swarming over are going to die. Xueqi's gaze was sharp as lightning and he scanned the place with a tense expression, as though he was searching for something. A moment later, Xueqi's eyes lit up and he vanished from the spot in a flash. Among the demons, Monkey, the spirit tiger, Ching Ching, Little Fox and Solitary Cloud formed a 5-man formation and followed the demons to charge into the 1,000 demon tomb. The Rat King stumbled and followed behind them. The spirit tiger asked softly as he sprinted, "Brother Monkey, will that old ape keep your rod for himself after using it?" "No." Monkey shook his head. Given his strength, he could have killed us a long time ago if he truly wanted to snatch it for himself. Why would he wait till now? Don't get worried for nothing. Qing pursed her lips. The Overlord has already asked Second to get closer with his granddaughter. Why will he want to hurt Second? True. The spirit tiger nodded. Little Fox was worried and asked softly, "What about young master? Why is there no news of him after such a long time?" In a way, no news is good news. Solitary Cloud said in a deep voice, "At least, this means that the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak has yet to succeed." During this period of time, Monkey and the others had already arrived at the edge of the Thousand Demon Tomb. Right as they were about to leap in, a figure dashed before them. "Who's there?" Monkey and the others were alarmed and attacked before they could think twice. Monkey's flesh expanded and he hurled a punch forward. It slammed down instantly like a gigantic blood-red seal. The spirit tiger reached out with his claws. Clang! Clang! Above the claws, four grisly white sharp fangs protruded and flashed coldly as he thrust at the figure at the front. Qing's azure green feather fan flapped and a ball of green flames were produced. Solitary Cloud's cultivation surpassed Monkey and the other two, and his eyes lit up. He had already recognized who the intruder was. Although Little Fox did not see the person's appearance clearly, she frowned and sniffed. When she caught scent of a familiar aura, she did not attack as well. In the blink of an eye, Monkey, the spirit tiger and Qing's attacks descended. The intruder released a punch and collided against Monkey's gigantic seal. He flicked out fingernails that were sharp as daggers with his other hand, and a chain of sparks were produced as they clashed against the incoming tiger claws. Monkey and the spirit tiger shuddered and retreated a half-step backwards. In midair, the ball of green flames had already arrived. The intruder opened his mouth and blew forward, extinguishing the ball of flames. "It's me!" The intruder shouted softly. "Don't head over." The figure was none other than Zimo. The place was extremely chaotic with demonic chi surging everywhere. Any spirit consciousness that was released would be dispersed immediately, and it was impossible to make use of voice transmissions. As such, Zimo could only make a move personally to hold back Monkey and the others. "First!" "Young master! Master!" Monkey and the others exclaimed with delighted expressions. Zimo took a step forward and said, "This tomb is extremely dangerous, don't join them. Follow me first." With that, he led the way and retreated with Monkey and the others. Although there were some fiend demons among the demons that recognized Zimo, all of them were filled with greed with treasures right before them, and none of them could be bothered with Zimo. Outside the perimeter, Zimo said in a deep voice, "Something big is definitely going to happen soon. If you see me make a move, don't be worried. Take good care of yourselves and return to Howling Moon Mountain as soon as possible. When the time is right, I'll naturally return to look for you guys." Monkey and the others saw Zimo's stern expression and felt their hearts skip a beat as they nodded in agreement. Right then, a commotion sounded from within the Thousand Demon Tomb. It was as though something was being ripped and sliced apart forcefully. "TSK! TSK! TSK!" One after another, blinding white light shot out from beneath the Thousand Demon Tomb. They were incomparably sharp and ripped the tomb apart. Many fiend demons that were fighting for the treasures in the tomb could not manage to react in time and were shredded into two by the streaks of white light. Splintered limbs flew everywhere and fresh blood spewed. The white lights that burst out from beneath the tomb increased in quantity. The Thousand Demon Tomb was already lined with dense cracks and warm corpses mounted on top of it with so much blood that could form a river. In that single instant, more than 10,000 fiend demons were killed. Their essence spirits could not even escape in time. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said sternly, "When the heaven's killing intent is released, the stars are shifted out of alignment. The killing intent of this sword art is so strong that even stars can be shifted out of alignment. Those fiend demons that entered are merely sending themselves to death. The heaven-slaying sword art is about to be born and it's using the blood of the fiend demons as a tribute." The 6 overlords in midair shouted at the same time, "All of you, hurry and retreat." Although they did not know what was going on beneath the tomb, the white lights released sent their hearts racing. Was that sword chi? What sword chi would be this powerful that even the 6 of them felt like they were going to be sliced apart? "TSK! TSK! TSK!" The moment the 6 overlords finished their sentence, an even denser sword chi burst forth from beneath the tomb. It was searing and burst into the clouds with a blazing white shade. Few of the fiend demons that charged into the tomb were spared. Monkey and the others stood from afar and felt a sense of trepidation as they watched the scene unfold. If Xueqi had not stopped them in time, the few of them would have become part of the corpses of Thousand Demon Valley. Boom! Suddenly, the Thousand Demon tomb exploded. A gigantic ball of light rose slowly from underground with a blinding brilliance. It was like a blazing sun and was surrounded by boundless sword chi. The 6 overlords were startled and burst in retreat. The sword chi on that ball of light was way too terrifying. If they reacted slower and were drawn inside, they would have been killed with their essence spirits destroyed as well. What's that? What sort of a treasure is it to possess such a might that could trigger a universal phenomenon? The gazes of the 6 overlords flickered and they looked bewildered. The ball of light was way too humongous. Their bodies that were several hundred feet tall were as insignificant as dust when compared to the ball of light. They could not see what was within the ball of light with their vision. The moment their spirit consciousness descended upon the ball of light, it was sliced into particles by boundless sword chi. A withered and yellowed ancient manual. Suddenly, Xueqi said softly as he gazed into the ball of light. Dao Lord Extreme Fire's heart skipped a beat and he asked hurriedly, "You're able to see what's within?" The ball of light should have been created by the heaven-slaying sword art. However, even with his cultivation, he could not peer through the veil of the body of light. He could not see what was within at all. "I can vaguely see something." Xueqi nodded. His right eye looked extremely sinister and was mostly white. It glowed in a blinding manner and everything was repressed within. Unknowingly, he was already circulating Illumination Dragon Eye. This doesn't make any sense. Dao Lord Extreme Fire frowned. Given your cultivation realm, you shouldn't be able to see through the ball of light even if you had cultivated Illumination Dragon Eye. He paused for a moment and an idea struck his mind as he blurted, "I got it. It's the Illumination Stone." Chapter 878. 3 Great Dao Lords. Chapter 878. 3 Great Dao Lords. Dao Lord Extreme Fire said, "If you can see through the veil of the ball of light, it means we've got the advantage. Should we make a move now?" Xueqi asked. "Wait a while more." Dao Lord Extreme Fire was extremely calm and said in a deep voice, "There are other people around here." "Other people?" Xueqi furrowed his brows slightly. He could clearly tell that Dao Lord Extreme Fire was not referring to fiend demons, but humans. Right then, the old ape's 2 long brows fluttered without wind. He spun around violently and glared into the voids not far away with a gaze as sharp as a saber, hollering, "Who is hiding over there? Get out!" Foo-foo. Mocking and teasing laughter filled the air and a relaxed voice sounded, "You are all nothing but a bunch of beasts. What can you guys do to me if I come out?" Immediately after, a fluctuation appeared in midair. A man dressed in luxurious robes rode over on the wind in a suave manner. He had elegant features and was dignified and handsome. Wielding a folding fan in his hands, there was an indescribable charm and grace to him. "How dare you? Who are you calling beasts?" "Ha! Your aura." "A human cultivator." "This is a human cultivator." Many high-level fiend demons looked over and discovered before long that there was no hint of demonic chi on this person. Instead, there was the aura of a human cultivator. The Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp said coldly, "You're nothing more than a Dharma characteristic of the human race. You must have a death wish for coming here alone." The combat strength of a Dharma characteristic was comparable to high-level fiend demons. However, despite the menacing gazes of so many fiend demons, there was no hint of panic in the eyes of this man. Instead, he looked composed and curled his lips gently with a bewitching smile. Xueqi noticed the emblem on this man's robes a long time ago, and knew that he was from one of the 7 fiend sects, Cloud Rain sect. "To think that it's him." Dao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded. Xueqi asked, "Senior, you know who he is?" "His Dao title is Cloud Rain and he's the titular disciple of Cloud Rain sect." Dao Lord Extreme Fire seemed to dislike this person a lot and sneered. "Heh, to think that even after 5,000 years have passed, this sniveling thief is still at the same cultivation realm and has not grown at all." Despite Dao Lord Extreme Fire's remark, Su Zimo did not dare to underestimate this man. The deeper one's cultivation was, the harder it would be for them to progress in the later stages. At the Dharma characteristic realm, one's lifespan extends to 10,000 years. It was only normal for somebody's cultivation realm to remain stagnant after cultivating for hundreds or even thousands of years. Furthermore, the fact that this person, Dao Lord Cloud Rain, could remain as the titular disciple for 5,000 years meant that he was not someone easy to deal with. Let me correct two things. Dao Lord Cloud Rain looked at the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp and smiled idly before saying in a slow and unhurried manner, "First, I'm not alone. Second, you can't kill me either." The moment he said that, a snowstorm appeared in the voids and the temperature dipped instantly. Thereafter, countless snowflakes condensed in midair and formed a bridge of ice that extended to the distant horizons. A slim figure strode over. In the blink of an eye she arrived. It was another Dharma characteristic of the human race. "It's a cultivator from Snowdrift Valley," Su Zimo said deeply. Dao Lord Extreme Fire nodded. "I don't recognize this woman, so she should be my junior. However, since she's qualified to stand shoulder to shoulder with Dao Lord Cloud Rain, she should not be weak." Someone else with a death wish. The Overlord of Golden Flames Mountain roared in laughter. The Overlord of Thousand Snake Island laughed in amusement as she said in a flirting manner, "My, this is quite the beauty. Can you guys bear to kill her?" Due to the cultivation techniques they cultivated, the female cultivators of Snowdrift Valley exuded coldness that made them seem like ice mountains that isolated themselves from everyone else. However, this woman's features were truly pure, peerless and ravishing. "All of you had better give way," the female cultivator of Snowdrift Valley said coldly. "He he he." The Overlord of Thousand Demon Valley could not help but laugh. "Ice Beauty, this is the Thousand Demon Valley, not your sect. You're at the wrong place if you want to throw a tantrum." The female cultivator of Snowdrift Valley did not speak anymore, but her expression turned colder. Su Zimo frowned and murmured softly, "What are they doing here? Could it be they should be here for the heaven-slaying sword art?" Dao Lord Extreme Fire nodded. "I'm guessing that someone among them managed to tell that a sword art was about to be born, judging from the universal phenomenon in Thousand Demon Valley. Originally, it was already extremely difficult for Su Zimo to snatch the sword art from the watch of many high-level fiend demons and 6 overlords. Now that 2 more Dharma characteristics had appeared, it was even more difficult for Su Zimo to get his hands on the sword art. The old ape asked deeply, "Why are the 2 of you here now?" "Naturally, we're here to retrieve something that belongs to the human race." Dao Lord Cloud Rain whipped out his folding fan and pointed to the ball of light that hovered in midair not far away. "Ha ha ha ha." The Overlord of Silver Moon Valley roared in laughter as though he had just heard the greatest joke in the world. "This is a treasure that was born in the Thousand Demon Valley. Who was the one who said that this belongs to the human race?" "I did." Another voice sounded. "Shoo." A streak of light shimmered from the distant horizons and the sound of sharp swords tearing through the air echoed, arriving instantly. A white-robed cultivator stood in midair with a long sword behind his back. His long hair fluttered and he had a prideful expression. His gaze was sharp as a sword and he exuded an indescribable razor-edged aura. It was a Dharma characteristic from Sword Sect. "This man isn't simple either." Dao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded. Su Zimo nodded. The fact that the 3 of them dared to venture deep into the Thousand Demon Valley was proof that their courage and boldness was unmatched by ordinary men. The Dao Lord of Sword Sect pointed to the ball of light in midair and said indifferently, "That item belongs to us humans and now, I want to take it away. Which of you wants to stand in my way?" His statement was extremely unreasonable and arrogant, as though he looked down on all the demons in the Thousand Demon Valley completely. "I do, what about it?" A high-level fiend demon of Silver Moon Valley stood out and his gigantic wolf body streaked through the void. He glared keenly at the Dao Lord of Sword Sect with olive-green eyes that were filled with sharp killing intent. "Whoever stands in my way shall die." The Dao Lord of Sword Sect spoke slowly. Before he completed his sentence, he withdrew his sword. Thereafter, a frightening sword light surfaced and tore through the layers of void, descending upon the head of the fiend demon from Silver Moon Valley instantly. Everywhere the sword chi passed by, The life force in the air seemed to be reaped. Lifeless sword art. Tao Lord Extreme Fire exclaimed softly. Before that fiend demon of Silver Moon Valley could make any move, his glabella was penetrated by the sword light and his life force was drained rapidly. In the blink of an eye, his entire body withered. A high-level fiend demon was killed instantly by a sword strike. Su Zimo felt his scalp prickle at the sight of that. Although he was only watching from afar, he could not muster any form of resistance against that sword strike. All of his trump cards seemed insignificant in the face of that sword strike. The power of the divine phoenix bone was probably the only thing in his possession that could defend against that sword strike. However, Su Zimo knew extremely well that the sword strike could kill him before he could bring out his divine phoenix bone. Lifeless sword art. A single sword strike that could annihilate all life force. That is truly an incredible sword strike. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said slowly. Legend has it that the founder master of Sword Sect once obtained one section of the three great ancient sword arts. The lifeless sword art was derived from that single section of the ancient sword art. Chapter 879. Massive Battles. Chapter 879. Massive Battle. Su Zimo was startled at that statement. If the lifeless sword art was derived from one of the three great ancient sword arts, how frightening was the power of the three great ancient sword arts? Su Zimo was filled with boundless hope towards the heaven-slaying sword art. Back in the past, the ancient sword art was a huge reason why the founder master of Sword Sect was able to reign as the emperor of the Sword Dao and establish the #1 sword sect in Tianhuang mainland. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said, however, nobody knows which of the three sword arts the Sword Emperor had in his possession. The entire battlefield descended into a momentary silence with the death of a high-level fiend demon and the obliteration of his essence spirit through a single sword strike. Everyone, the 6 overlords included, were stunned by that sword strike. A moment later, the old ape's white brows fluttered and he locked his gaze onto Tao Lord Cloud Rain, saying indifferently, "If I'm not wrong, you should be Tao Lord Cloud Rain, the #2 of the Dharma characteristic ranking 5,000 years ago. You're pretty knowledgeable." Tao Lord Cloud Rain flapped his folding fan gently and smiled with a bewitching charm. The Dharma characteristic ranking. There were 3 ranking lists that were renowned in Tianhuang mainland. They were the Golden Core Phenomenon, Heaven and Earth Dharma Characteristic and Supreme Divine Powers rankings. All of them were released by Enigma Palace and encompassed almost all the paragons and monster incarnates in history. In other words, they were the most authoritative and renowned ranking lists. Among them, the Golden Core Phenomenon ranking was refreshed every 100 years. The Heaven and Earth Dharma Characteristic ranking was refreshed every 1,000 years. As for the Supreme Divine Powers ranking, only the most terrifying Supreme Divine Powers in history were recorded. Unless divine powers that could surpass the might of past divine powers were created by the future generation, the Supreme Divine Powers ranking was almost never refreshed otherwise. The Daras of the 7 fiend sects are different. For example, Overlord Palace specializes in body tempering while Illusion Fiend Cult specializes in mental state cultivation. As for Cloud Rain sect, Humph. Tao Lord Cloud Rain seemed to be in disdain and harumphed. All in all, the combat strength of Cloud Rain sect cultivators are ranked last within the 7 fiend sects. Previously, he was indeed capable to suppress many paragons of the immortal, Buddhist and fiend sects and kill his way to the #2 position of the Dharma characteristic ranking. However, I don't know if he has grown after all these years. In midair, the old ape shifted his gaze towards the man and woman from Snowdrift Valley and Sword Sect respectively and said in a slow manner, "I'm sure the 2 of you are not nobodies to be able to accompany Tao Lord Cloud Rain here on the same footing. I haven't exited the valley in recent years. Indeed, I've become rather ignorant and can't tell who the 2 of you are." Naturally, Tao Lord Cloud Rain and the other 2 could tell that among the 6 overlords, the old ape had the most reserved aura and his combat strength was the most unpredictable. However, the female cultivator of Snowdrift Valley had an aloof nature. Even against human cultivators, she might not bother to reply to them, let alone a bunch of fiend demons. The man from Sword Sect was even prouder. His hands were behind his back and unknowingly, his sword had already been returned to his sheath. He looked up into the sky as though he had not heard the old ape's question at all. On the other hand, Tao Lord Cloud Rain smiled and said, "This fairy's Tao title is Snowdrift." He paused intentionally at the mention of that. Everyone realized that this was another titular disciple. The smile on Tao Lord Cloud Rain's face deepened as he continued. Fairy Snowdrift was the #1 of the Dharma characteristic ranking 2,000 years ago. The expressions of the 6 overlords changed slightly. As overlords, they naturally knew of the cultivation world's Dharma characteristic ranking. There were a total of 72 spots on the Dharma characteristic ranking. The combat strength of Fairy Snowdrift was obvious to all if she was able to be the #1 of the Dharma characteristic ranking. The reputation of the two of them was enough to kill someone. They were the #1 and 2 of their respective Dharma characteristic rankings. It was equivalent to Su Zimo and Deity back in the ancient battlefield. If the two of them had appeared together, which golden core wouldn't be fearful? Tao Lord Cloud Rain pointed to the Man of Sword sect and quipped with a chuckle, "I'd advise you guys not to provoke this guy. He is the #1 of the previous Dharma characteristic ranking, and the current titular disciple of Sword sect with the Tao title of Immortal Sword. Nobody can survive against his sword. Lifelessness ensues from his sword." Two #1s and a #2 of the Dharma characteristic ranking as well as 3 titular disciples. The reputation of any single one of them could shock the entire world. Now that these 3 Tao lords were gathered in the Thousand Demon Valley, it was obvious what they were after. "So, you guys are Tao lords on the Dharma characteristic ranking. It's no wonder why you're fearless." The Overlord of Silver Moon Valley said coldly, however, "We don't know if you're going to live up to your reputations just yet. I don't care who you guys are, nobody who tries to steal something from Thousand Demon Valley shall be allowed to leave alive." The voice of the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp was metallic and resolute. Many high-level fiend demons present were stunned by the reputation of the 3 Tao lords. However, what sort of characters were the 6 overlords? All of them reigned over a region with countless demons under their charge. All of them had firm mental states that were almost unshakable. There was no way the 6 overlords would fear opponents that were at similar cultivation realms as them. Furthermore, the Ball of Light was clearly extraordinary if 3 Tao lords of the human race were willing to venture deep into the Thousand Demon Valley and brave the dangers for it. That fact alone made the 6 overlords even more curious about the Ball of Light, and they were bent on getting their hands on it. The 6 overlords exchanged glances. Although they were fighting earlier on, at this moment, all of them had a tacit understanding and harbored the same thought. No matter who had their hands on the Ball of Light eventually, it must not be the 3 Tao lords of the human race. Thousand Demon Valley could not afford to be disgraced as such either. Suddenly, the world went silent. Many fiend demons, the 6 overlords and the 3 Tao lords remained motionless. To begin with, the birth of the heaven-slaying sword art filled the area with a shuddering murderous aura. Now that both parties were in a standoff, the killing intent in the void was even more intense and startling. Attack! After a brief silence, the 6 overlords roared at almost the same time. Roar! Roar! Within the world, countless demons roared and the heavens quaked while the earth rumbled. Mountains shook and dust flew everywhere with gravel mixed in. The 6 overlords reverted to their true forms and struck Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group at the same time. The other high-level fiend demons moved in to form an encirclement as well. Instantly, dermic powers howled, surged and rumbled. Countless demonic arts tore through the air and descended with an engulfing, frightening might. They were everywhere, and even the weather changed because of them. Even mid-level fiend demons would be destroyed instantly in the aftershock if they rushed forward, let alone low-level fiend demons. From all directions, fiend demons retreated constantly and hid as they watched the battle from afar. Tao Lord Cloud Rain focused his gaze and a demonic glint shone in his eyes. It was as though countless threads were weaving in an increasingly dense manner. 7 emotions threads. Tao Lord Cloud Rain shouted. In midair, colorful, pretty threads spouted in midair around all the high-level fiend demons. Tao Lord Cloud Rain swept his gaze across. The threads coiled around them endlessly. They increased in number and coiled even tighter. Furthermore, all of these threads were connected to Tao Lord Cloud Rain's palms in a dense manner. The 7 emotions threads. To think that I would see this dermic art again after 5,000 years. Tao Lord Extreme Fire sounded sad and emotional. The 7 Emotions Threads is the ultimate skill of Cloud Rain sect, and there are extremely few cultivators who manage to cultivate it successfully. Tao Lord Cloud Rain is one of them. Be it human cultivators or fiend demons, all of them possess the 7 emotions and 6 desires. The 7 Emotions Threads are meant to trigger the 7 types of emotions that all living beings harbor within their bodies. The more emotional one was, the more they would be affected and the greater the damage they would suffer. As Tao Lord Extreme Fire described the skill, Su Zimo witnessed blood seeping out from the bodies of the high-level fiend demons bound by the 7 Emotions Threads. The 7 Emotions Threads cut into their bodies in a frightening manner. Chapter 880. Overlord vs. Tao Lord. Chapter 880. Overlord vs. Tao Lord. Many high-level fiend demons were in a bloodied state coiled by the 7 Emotions Threads. Before they could release any demonic arts, they were already in unendurable pain as they sank deeper and deeper. The 7 Emotions Threads were connected to Tao Lord Cloud Rain's palms on the other end. All of those high-level fiend demons were like puppets of Tao Lord Cloud Rain. They were neither in control of their bodies or their fates. Su Zimo was secretly stunned when he heard the background of the 7 Emotions Threads. As his cultivation deepened, the level of things he interacted with increased and the Dharmic arts and secret skills that he encountered were more powerful as well. In fact, there were Dharmic arts that were unfathomable and impossible to defend against. The 7 Emotions Threads was one of those. Be it human cultivators or fiend demons, as long as they were living beings, they would possess the 7 emotions of joy, anger, worry, longing, despair, fear and shock. There would be no life without the 7 emotions, such as a rock. However, even when a rock becomes sentient and turns into a demon, it would possess the 7 emotions to a certain extent. According to the words of Tao Lord Extreme Fire, one would inevitably be controlled by the 7 Emotions Threads as long as they possessed the 7 emotions. Within this massive battle, the more furious, worried or frightful one was, the more 7 Emotions Threads that would be produced within their bodies. As such, they would sink deeper into their emotions until they were dead. There was already a high-level fiend demon that was minced to death after struggling too intensely and producing too many 7 Emotions Threads. He turned into a mist of blood without any corpse left. Even his essence spirit could not manage to escape in time. It was a truly horrifying Dharmic art. The most frightening thing was that Tao Lord Cloud Rain was targeting all the fiend demons by releasing the 7 Emotions Threads and nobody was spared. How bold did he have to be to attempt to suppress everyone single-handedly? The 6 overlords were included as well. Of course, since Tao Lord Cloud Rain targeted all the fiend demons, his strength was definitely divided. There was still a degree of difficulty if he wanted to contain the 6 overlords with the 7 Emotions Threads. The Overlord of Golden Flames Mountain's body blazed with raging flames and burned the 7 Emotions Threads continuously. Although the 7 Emotions Threads appeared constantly, they could not bind his body. The Overlord of Thousand Snake Island was already cut by the 7 Emotions Threads and dark green blood seeped out. Her blood tainted the 7 Emotions Threads and corroded them before long. The other overlords released various methods and broke free from the 7 Emotions Threads as they charged at Tao Lord Cloud Rain together. Although the old ape looked sluggish, he was the most intense at dealing with the 7 Emotions Threads. His flesh grew, causing his body to expand as he broke free from the 7 Emotions Threads directly. Although he was cut and blood gushed out all over, his expression did not change. Kill! The old ape strode forward and swung imminent violently towards the head of Tao Lord Cloud Rain. Instantly, a blinding golden radiance filled the air. Tao Lord Cloud Rain narrowed his gaze and retreated, seemingly unwilling to take the attack head-on. 2 rays of resplendent light streaked through the air, shot from the eyes of the Overlord of Vermilion Cloud Valley. They cut through the never-ending 7 Emotions Threads directly. Many high-level fiend demons seized the opportunity to break free. Heaven and Earth Snowstorm. A cold, chilling voice sounded and the temperature on the battlefield dipped instantly. Fairy Snowdrift had attacked. Without warning, snowflakes filled the air. Every single snowflake was hexagonal with extremely obscure emblems and runes carved on them. They were beautiful and sparkled brightly. Although the snowflakes were beautiful, they were merciless. The snowflakes appeared too densely and a high-level fiend demon could not dodge in time. A snowflake landed on his shoulder and caused a stream of blood to spurt out. Similar scenes appeared all over the place. The entire world was filled with snow that resembled geese feathers as well as tragic fresh blood. The howls of fiend demons sounded everywhere. Unlike the sinister scene of Tao Lord Cloud Rain's attack, Fairy Snowdrift's dermic art looked more sorrowful and surreal, as though it was not from this world. Fairy Snowdrift stepped on the snow and traveled through the air with her white blouse fluttering in an incredibly beautiful manner. She waved her hand and all the demons looked up. It was a truly shocking scene. Su Zimo gazed at the scene with a yearning feeling. He did not know when he would be able to cultivate to that level. Dharma characteristics were almost at the top of the cultivation world and had noble statuses. No matter which sect or faction they were at, nobody would dare to disrespect them. The fact that Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group could barge into the 8 demon realms and fight against so many demons in a massive massacre was truly enviable. This was the 1,000 demon meet. Right now, almost all the strongest high-level fiend demons in 1,000 Demon Valley were gathered here. How bold did the 3 Tao Lords have to be to venture so deep into this place? Behold my demonic art! The Overlord of Golden Flames Mountain roared and his glabella shone. The dermic powers around his body surged and raging flames shot into the skies, engulfing the entire firmament. Swoosh! The golden flames enveloped the skies with a frightening might and burned countless snowflakes. Fairy Snowdrift was expressionless, neither troubled nor enraged, when her dermic art was dispelled. Swoosh! 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 A series of blinding sword lights flashed through the air. The sword chi streaked overbearingly and there was no life to be seen everywhere it passed. Lifeless sword art. Tao Lord Immortal Sword had attacked once again. Unlike Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift, Tao Lord Immortal Sword's attack was filled with killing power. Within a few breaths, more than 10 high-level fiend demons who were engulfed by his sword chi were decapitated with their essence spirits destroyed. The Old Ape and the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp had to attack at the same time before most of the sword chi in the air was dispersed. Many fiend demons felt their hearts race at the sight of this battle. Overlords versus Tao Lords. This was a clash between top-tier Dharma characteristic experts of the human and demon race. If not for the birth of the heaven-slaying sword art, this would be an extremely rare sight. Su Zimo's gaze was fixed and he narrowed his eyes tensely, observing every single detail on the battlefield. He was different from everyone else. The other fiend demons merely wanted to watch the show. However, he wanted to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. He would definitely be mocked if his thoughts were known to others. This was a fight between top-tier Dharma characteristic experts. A low-level fiend demon like him would be killed by the aftershock of their strength before he could get close. He was definitely daydreaming to think that he could steal the heaven-slaying sword art right under the noses of so many Dharma characteristic experts. As of now, Su Zimo had no plan. The only thing he had backing him was Tao Lord Extreme Fire. He was still waiting for an opportunity. In midair, the battle intensified as time passed. Although there were many fiend demons in 1,000 Demon Valley, they could not take down the 3 Tao Lords with their encirclement. Instead, many fiend demons were dying instead. In truth, if the 6 overlords had not taken most of the power released by the 3 Tao Lords, the remaining high-level fiend demons would have died a long time ago. Gradually, both parties reached a stalemate. Although the ball of light was right in front of them, it was extremely difficult for anyone to withdraw from the battlefield. Tao Lord Immortal Sword frowned deeply. This was the 1,000 Demon Valley after all. Now that there was such a great commotion here, there was a high chance that other top-tier experts from 1,000 Demon Valley would be drawn here the longer things dragged on. If a grand demon appeared, the consequences would be unimaginable. At that thought, Tao Lord Immortal Sword spoke as he attacked. Fellow Taoists, please fight with your true strength and help me hold out for a moment. I'm going to head over and retrieve what's inside. In the name of my Tao title, I promise the two of you that I will definitely repay you guys immensely in the future if I manage to get my hands on it. Although Tao Lord Immortal Sword looked composed, he was getting a little flustered internally. All right. Tao Lord Cloud Rain agreed to it loudly. The fact that he could obtain this promise from Tao Lord Immortal Sword made his trip here worthwhile. Chapter 881. Methods of a Tao Lord. Chapter 881. Methods of a Tao Lord. Tao Lord Immortal Sword knew what was within the ball of light, and he was bent on succeeding for his trip this time round. If he could get his hands on this sword art, he would most likely be the second to do so apart from the Sword Emperor. However, he was very smart and did not tell Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift what was truly within the ball of light. He merely said that it was a remnant of Sword Sect. He believed that Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift would not be able to guess what was inside the ball of light either. There were extremely few people who could deduce the birth of the heaven-slaying sword art through an universal phenomenon. Furthermore, it was only by chance that he managed to catch sight of an obscure statement left behind by the Sword Emperor when he was browsing through the legacy ancient books of Sword Sect. When the heaven's killing intent is released, the stars are shifted out of alignment. When the earth's killing intent is released, the dragon snake shall rise. When the human's killing intent is released, heaven and earth shall topple. Through that statement, he managed to deduce that there was a high chance the universal phenomenon was formed because the heaven-slaying sword art was about to be born. Of course, he was not entirely certain either. When Tao Lord Immortal Sword ventured deep into this place and saw the frightening sword intent released by the ball of light, he was finally convinced that the heaven-slaying sword art was within the ball of light. Fellow Taoists, please help me hold them back for a bit. A while will do. Tao Lord Immortal Sword left the statement and withdrew from the fight. Shoo! A sword light streaked past the skies as Tao Lord Immortal Sword sprinted towards the gigantic ball of light hovering in midair. Where are you headed to? The Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp hollered and swung the spear in his arms. Two metallic glints shone in his eyes as he swept horizontally with a monumental might towards Tao Lord Immortal Sword. Tao Lord Immortal Sword did not dodge or avoid and continued forward as though he had not seen it at all. Crocodile Demon, you'll have to get through me first. Tao Lord Cloud Rain retracted his smile and got serious. He threw his folding fan and it transformed into a streak of black light, striking the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp spear heavily. Clang! The folding fan and spear collided with a loud clanging sound. The spear quivered gently and was repelled slightly. In a flash, Tao Lord Immortal Sword seized that momentary opportunity and slipped past. Tao Lord Cloud Rain slapped in reverse and pushed across the air towards the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp. Dharmic powers gathered within his palm endlessly. A gigantic palm created with Dharmic power appeared in the void and arrived instantly. 6 Desires Palm Strike. Tao Lord Cloud Rain said softly, the 7 Emotions Threads and 6 Desires Palm Strike are the ultimate skills of Cloud Rain Sect. However, the 6 Desires Palm Strike is focused on killing. Now that he released this ultimate skill, Cloud Rain is probably going all out. The Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp sensed danger and his eyes lit up as he howled, innate divine powers, boulder form. One after another, rough lumps that resembled rocks appeared on the body of the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp and stuck onto his body such that only his eyes were exposed. This was the innate divine power of the Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp provided a huge boost to his physical defense once it was released. Even powerful Tao Lord Dharmic weapons might not be able to hurt his true form, let alone Dharmic arts. Bang! The gigantic palm descended. The Overlord of Confusion Mist Swamp's true form was at least several dozen feet wide. However, he was sent flying by that gigantic palm and nearly fell from the skies. Bang! 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 Tao Lord Cloud Rain's hands continued shifting and a total of 6 gigantic palms were sent forth. Even the voids were quivering. Go! Tao Lord Cloud Rain tossed his folding fan outwards once again. His folding fan opened up and there were ink portraits within. One after another, nude handsome men and gorgeous women were having intercourse in various positions in an extremely alluring manner. The moment the folding fan opened up, the men and women within seemed to have come alive and started gyrating. It was as though they could tap on the primal impulses within the hearts of all the fiend demons. Roar! Some of the fiend demons felt their blood pump and entered a frenzied state with a single glance. A demon panted heavily and spun around, lunging towards the Overlord of Thousand Snake Island not far away in a deranged manner. The Overlord of Thousand Snake Island's expression was frosty, and she killed the demon without hesitation. However, immediately after, another fiend demon that had lost his mind charged over. Damn it! Even with the Overlord of Thousand Snake Island's composure, She could not help but curse. The battlefield was in chaos. Fairy Snowdrift's expression was even colder. She swept her gaze around and conjured hand seals rapidly, causing frost to spread with a single wave of her fair hand. Frost convergence. She hollered with a voice cold as ice. The void looked like the silent surface of a lake, and frost began to surface, spreading everywhere to engulf fiend demons layer by layer. Some of the fiend demons reacted extremely swiftly and circulated dermic powers in their bloodlines to break free the moment a layer of frost formed over their bodies. Some of the fiend demons were slower to react. By the time the frost covered most of their bodies, their expressions froze on their faces as they could not move at all. It was an extremely shocking sight. In the blink of an eye, gigantic icicles formed in midair one after another. Unlike the other fiend demons watching the battle, Xueqi's position was extremely close to the center of the battlefield. However, at that moment, he could already feel some discomfort in his bloodline. Frost chi rushed over wave after wave. Xueqi furrowed his brows slightly. If he had not circulated his bloodline with all his might, he would not have been able to withstand the invasion of the frost chi. He was only at the edge of the battlefield. If he was right in the center, he would have turned into an ice statue before he even approached the ball of light. Right then, a warm sensation spread from his left wrist and cruised through his limbs like a river current. Before long, Xueqi's body warmed up. He knew that Tao Lord Extreme Fire was the one helping him. Don't get anxious, wait a while more. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice was unusually calm. Far away, almost all the fiend demons watched this earth-shaking battle keenly. However, Monkey and the others kept their eyes on Xueqi from time to time. By now, Xueqi had already changed his robes. The muscles on his face twitched and his original scholarly and refined aura was gone. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into another person with a brutish aura. All the demons were watching the battle and none of them noticed this. However, Monkey and the others saw everything clear as day. What's First trying to do? The spirit tiger seemed to have thought of something and was dumb-stricken with his mouth agape. Could young master be thinking of? Little Fox frowned slightly with worry-filled eyes as she looked at Xueqi and the ball of light in midair. Solitary Cloud shook his head grimly. Impossible. Even the aftershock from the dermic power of a fight at this level is enough to kill mid- and low-level fiend demons. Master won't be able to get close at all, let alone snatch that ball of light from under the nose of so many Dharma characteristic experts. Solitary Cloud was not wrong. A moment earlier, more than 10 high-level fiend demons were sealed eternally in ice and fell without waking up after the top-tier dermic art of Snowdrift Valley released by Fairy Snowdrift. With a crash, they shattered into pieces when they fell onto the ground. Although Xueqi's physique and bloodline was strong, there was no way he could endure the invasion of such power. Little Fox pondered for a moment. Most importantly, even if young master could get his hands on that ball of light, how was he going to escape? The situation right now was different from when Xueqi escaped from the Blood Sea a day ago. Right now, the 6 overlords and 3 Tao lords were present. Furthermore, all 9 top-tier Dharma characteristic experts were watching the ball of light. Anyone that tried to get their hands on it would be attacked by all 9 of them. Even if Xueqi managed to get his hands on it and release blood escape, there was no way he could possibly escape. Chapter 882. Demon Sealing Diagram. Chapter 882. Demon Sealing Diagram. In the Voids. The battle dragged on with intense relentlessness. During this short period of time, more than 100 high-level fiend demons have already fallen. The 6 overlords were truly enraged by now. Apart from the fact that the 3 Tao lords were truly supreme paragons of the human race, a large part of why they were being restrained was because they had just fought among themselves earlier on. Their stamina and combat strength depleted significantly as they fought against the 3 Tao lords. However, they no longer had a way back. If the 6 overlords allowed themselves to be defeated with the unknown treasure stolen by 3 Tao lords who ventured deep into the Thousand Demon Valley, the Thousand Demon Valley was going to end up as the biggest joke in Tianhuang mainland. The 3 Tao lords would definitely rise to extreme fame because of this battle as well. Roar! The old ape reared his head and howled, circulating his bloodline to its fullest extent. He shrugged his tall and massive body, causing frost to rain down endlessly. Boom! The old ape stomped with one foot and cracks appeared one after another through the initially frozen voids, extending rapidly. Shatter! He rose and swung imminent violently onto the voids in front of him. A blinding golden radiance descended instantly. Boom! The frost in the voids shattered completely and countless high-level fiend demons struggled to break free. All of them trembled and panted heavily. The faces of these demons had already turned blue from the coldness of the frost during this short period of time. If the condition persisted slightly longer, their essence spirits would have frozen up and they would have fallen completely, unable to break free for all eternity. Although their cultivation realms were similar, the difference between them and the three Tao Lords was way too great. The temperature on the battlefield was still shockingly cold. Apart from the 6 overlords, the other high-level fiend demons were already feeling fearful and did not dare to advance. Burn! The overlord of Golden Flames Mountain opened his mouth and spewed a ball of golden flames that surged towards the shattered frost on the battlefield. At the same time, he bit his tongue gently and spat out a stream of essence blood that splashed onto the golden flames. The flames intensified and became a golden sea of fire that burned into the heavens. Countless frost shards turned into mist and the entire battlefield was filled with fog. Suddenly, 2 rainbow-colored rays of light shot out from the eyes of the Overlord of Vermilion Cloud Valley and surged into Tao Lord Cloud Rain's folding fan. The dharmic weapons of the few overlords descended at the same time. They smashed Tao Lord Cloud Rain's folding fan and its glow dimmed. The overlords of 6 Silvermoon Valley, Thousand Snake Island and Confusion Mist Swamp attacked with their full strength. Their demonic arts pushed against the 6 Desires Palm Strike and everything dispersed before long. In the blink of an eye, the methods of Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift were dispelled entirely. Both their expressions seemed to have turned paler. It was as though fighting against so many demons and 6 overlords head-on had taken an immense toll on them and they could barely hang on. On the other side, Tao Lord Immortal Sword arrived in front of the ball of light, but he did not dare to advance recklessly. The glow that surrounded the gigantic ball of light was created by the sword chi of the heaven-slaying sword art and was extremely sharp. Even he did not dare to take it on with his body. Tao Lord Immortal Sword narrowed his eyes and his hands shifted continuously to conjure dharmic arts. In midair, a gigantic heavenly thrusting sword sliced down viciously against the ball of light. Boom! An earth-shaking explosion was released when the gigantic sword struck the ball of light. The ball of light quivered, as though it was impacted, and released waves of sword chi. The sword chi streaked wildly and sliced through the voids with a cold killing intent. Tao Lord Immortal Sword had already retreated long ago, but he returned soon after and conjured dharmic arts again. Another gigantic sword sliced down. Boom! The ball of light quivered once more and spread sword chi. Bang! 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 In the blink of an eye, Tao Lord Immortal Sword slashed down with a third sword. Outsiders could not sense nor could they see what he was doing. However, with his Illumination Dragon Eye, Su Zimo was able to witness everything clearly. Every single strike from Tao Lord Immortal Sword caused the sword chi emitted by the ball of light to weaken considerably, and its glow diminished as well. It was no longer as dazzling and blinding as though it could destroy everything like when it first appeared. Su Zimo realized that this could be a secret skill of Su Zimo that was establishing some sort of a connection to the heaven-slaying sword art. Tao Lord Immortal Sword was attempting to subdue the heaven-slaying sword art within the ball of light. Once the glow around the ball of light dispersed completely, the heaven-slaying sword art would naturally belong to Tao Lord Immortal Sword. Perhaps once the sword chi around the ball of light was weakened to a certain degree, Tao Lord Immortal Sword would be able to barge in and obtain the heaven-slaying sword art before the ball of light's glow was completely dispersed. Brother Immortal Sword, how is it? Tao Lord Cloud Rain said with a hint of anxiousness in his tone. At this moment, he was no longer as composed and laid back as he was initially. Although Fairy Snowdrift still looked aloof, she also looked much more battered. The two of them were struggling to defend against the full-powered counterattacks of the 6 overlords and could be suppressed at any moment. Fellow Taoists, hang on for a little more. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's voice was steady, and his gaze became incomparably scorching as he glared at the ball of light right before him that was turning dimmer. He was about to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. He was not going to allow any accidents. As Tao Lord Immortal Sword looked at Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift who were being pushed back, a cold glint flashed through his eyes. He slapped his storage bag and withdrew a gray item before tossing it outside. The item fluttered and hovered above the heads of the demons in midair as it spread slowly. The demon sealing diagram. How is that treasure in his possession? Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind with a hint of shock. What? Su Zimo asked with a voice transmission. Tao Lord Extreme Fire replied, that demon sealing diagram is a Dharma treasure created by a mighty figure of the ancient era. Although it's useless against human cultivators, it's extremely powerful against demons. Su Zimo nodded. In other words, this was a treasure targeted at demons, similar to the demon revealing mirror. Before long, Tao Lord Extreme Fire seemed to have discovered something and exclaimed softly in an enlightened manner, that demon sealing diagram is already damaged. There's no wonder why he's willing to take it out. Su Zimo focused his gaze. Although the demon sealing diagram was called a diagram, it was made from an unknown beast's hide with some fur on it and an ancient aura. It was obvious that a large portion of the beast hide was missing with jagged edges. An extremely powerful force must have ripped it apart. The moment the demon sealing diagram descended, a horrific might spread everywhere. Within the battlefield, all the high-level fiend demons, the 6 overlords included, seemed to be restrained by an invisible force where they could not break free. Roar! The old ape growled deeply and was not willing to give up. His bones cracked wildly as though his skeleton was about to fall apart. The overlord of Thousand Snake Island was the weakest in physique, and she coughed a small mouthful of blood with a pale expression. If this was the case for overlords, it was even worse for the other fiend demons. Su Zimo was alarmed and secretly dumbfounded. If this was the strength of a damaged Dharma treasure, how powerful would a complete demon sealing diagram be? The sinister thing was that the demon sealing diagram only targeted the fiend demons present. It was clear that Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift were unaffected by the shroud of the demon sealing diagram and could finally catch a breather. Suddenly, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded in Su Zimo's mind. There was only a single decisive word. Attack! Chapter 883, Fruitless Return? Chapter 883, Fruitless Return. To begin with, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was a Dharma characteristic cultivator. He was more experienced than anyone else towards a fight of this level and could seize the best opportunities. Su Zimo's attention was focused a long time ago. The moment he heard Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice, he did not hesitate and pushed his feet off the ground right away, turning into a streak of light that burst towards the ball of light at the center of the battlefield. This was a form of trust. He trusted Tao Lord Extreme Fire completely. After Su Zimo made his move, he gradually realized the current situation of the battlefield. At this moment, all the fiend demons, the 6 overlords included, were suppressed by the demon sealing diagram and could not break free right away. Although the demon sealing diagram was powerful, it was damaged at the end of the day with more than half torn. Although it could suppress the demons present, it would not be able to maintain it for long. At that moment, Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift were almost completely exhausted. The moment they took the breather, that was when they relaxed their minds. The only person Su Zimo had to truly face was only Tao Lord Immortal Sword. Even so, it was still extremely difficult and treacherous for him to snatch away the heaven-slaying sword art. Monkey and the others kept watch on Su Zimo the entire time. The group of them sensed it the moment he made his move. Hurry, look. First made his move. Young master, be careful. Little Fox held her hands before her chest and watched unblinkingly with a worried expression. On the battlefield in the voids, the 6 overlords and many high-level fiend demons were rooted on the spot by the demon sealing diagram and could barely move an inch. The sudden appearance of a figure became extremely striking. The demons watching at the sidelines noticed the intruder and exclaimed as well. Who is that? He must have a death wish to try and enter the battlefield at this moment. I've never seen him before. Is that a fiend demon or human cultivator? That person's cultivation realm doesn't seem high. What is he trying to do? By now, Su Zimo had already altered his appearance and the black-haired essence spirit presided over his consciousness. His initially scarlet hair had faded as well. Apart from Monkey and the others, nobody present could recognize him at all. Under normal circumstances, Dharma characteristic experts could break through his disguise with a casual glance. However, when two spirit consciousnesses swept over, they were blocked by an invisible force. They could not uncover Su Zimo's background at all. That was the power of the Ming Wang prayer beads. In truth, even if Su Zimo fused his two essence spirits, he was still unable to unleash the true power of the Ming Wang prayer beads. It was even more impossible for him to block the detection of Dharma characteristic experts. However, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was hidden within the Ming Wang prayer beads. At that moment, the person channeling the Ming Wang prayer beads from the shadows was not Su Zimo, but Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was also a Dharma characteristic expert. Although he lost his physical body, his essence spirit had already recovered more than half its strength. With him channeling a treasure that was once the foundation of Daming Monastery, it was rare for anyone of the same level to be able to see through Su Zimo's disguise unless they had any divine techniques. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo arrived at the center of the battlefield. He had to pass through the 6 overlords and many high-level fiend demons to get to the ball of light. This area was also the region engulfed by the demon ceiling diagram. Although the demon ceiling diagram restricted fiend demons greatly, it had no effect on Su Zimo. Right now, the black-haired essence spirit presided over his spirit consciousness. This essence spirit cultivated 2 top-tier spirit refinement techniques of the Buddhist and immortal Taoists and was extremely pure. There was no hint of demonic chi on it at all. The demons could only watch with widened eyes as Su Zimo brushed past them. Another human cultivator. A thought crossed the minds of the demons. Only a human cultivator could pass through the power of the demon ceiling diagram with such ease. Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift noticed Su Zimo as well. However, as the helpers of Tao Lord Immortal Sword, they had to stop this intruder no matter if he was a demon or a human cultivator. At that moment, it was clear that Tao Lord Immortal Sword was about to succeed. All they had to do was defend for a while more. At that thought, Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift exchanged decisive glances. Both of them channeled their dermic powers and attacked at the same time. Bang! 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 3 gigantic palm prints crushed over in an engulfing manner. Although it was clear that the dermic power was weaker, they were still not to be underestimated. Crack! 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 Fairy Snowdrift waved her fair hand and a gigantic ice wall rose from the ground to block Su Zimo's path. No matter how weak Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift were currently, they were still top-tier Dharma characteristic experts who could kill anyone of the same level with ease. A low-level fiend demon like Su Zimo stood no chance at all. Given his strength, it was definitely not enough to take on the 2 Tao Lords. The suppression of the Dharma characteristic realm alone was not something he could endure. All of a sudden, raging flames engulfed Su Zimo's body and he seemed to have turned into a gigantic fireball that could incinerate all beings. Even the dermic power around him was boiling. The fireball charged to the front. Boom! A series of explosions could be heard when the gigantic fireball collided against the 3 palm prints. The flames on the fireball diminished significantly. Immediately after, the gigantic fireball slammed onto the ice wall. The ice on the surface melted rapidly. Right as the fireball was about to penetrate, a sword light slashed over at an extremely fast speed and descended upon the fireball. More than half the flames on the fireball were already extinguished before the sword light even arrived. Lifeless sword art. This terrifying sword art of sword sect had descended once again and lifelessness ensued from the sword. This single sword seemed like it was going to sever all life inside and out of the fireball. Su Zimo narrowed his eyes with a tense expression. At this moment, he could not be considered as the one in combat. Tao Lord Extreme Fire was the one borrowing Su Zimo's body with his essence spirit to fight against the 3 Tao Lords. Buzz! The 4 Tao imprints on the Ming Wang prayer beads on Su Zimo's left wrist suddenly released a blinding radiance. The 4 Tao imprints seemed to have fused into one as an illusory phantom appeared behind Su Zimo, assuming a lotus position with a dignified appearance. There seemed to be countless mysterious runes etched on his body. Sanskrit echoed all over. Clang! The sword light slashed against the phantom with a jarring sound. The phantom swayed and gradually dispersed. This sword strike that could sever life force had not managed to do anything at all. This was the first time that blood had not been spilled after Tao Lord Immortal Sword released his lifeless sword art. Although Tao Lord Extreme Fire did not say anything, Su Zimo could sense that the current situation had already surpassed Tao Lord Extreme Fire's initial expectations. They did not manage to break through the obstructions of Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift right away, but were in a stalemate here. The longer things dragged on, the more things could change. Be it against the 6 overlords or the 3 Tao Lords, they were the weakest and could not afford any change in the situation. This is bad, prepare to retreat. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded, filled with indignance and some bitterness. The 3 Tao Lords were more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Although the heaven-slaying sword art was right before them, they could only return fruitless. However, Tao Lord Extreme Fire had no other choice but to make that decision. If he was alone, he might have been able to take the gamble with his life. However, Su Zimo was here with him and he could not afford to let the former die here. More importantly, he lost his physical body and only had an essence spirit remaining. As such, the skills he could use were limited and he could not release many powerful Dharmic arts. If they continued to linger here, it would only bring harm upon Su Zimo. Chapter 884. Soaring Serpent Flame Deity. Chapter 884. Soaring Serpent Flame Deity. Su Zimo had a calm expression. Although he did not really have much to do with this fight, as an outsider, he saw things clearer. He could notice some opportunities in the situation. The demons were suppressed, so Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group was only focused on him alone. If he could remove the seal on the demons, he would not be the first person targeted after the 6 overlords and fiend demons were freed. Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group would be. Su Zimo jerked his head up and glared at the old beast hide hovering in midair not far away with a divine glint in his eyes. You're intending to. Tao Lord Extreme Fire noticed Su Zimo's gaze and said hurriedly, realizing something. Although the demon sealing diagram is damaged, it still has power remaining and can suppress all the demons. The bloodline in your body does not belong to the human race and you will definitely be injured by this treasure if you touch it. Right now, the black-haired essence spirit presided over Su Zimo's consciousness and the demon sealing diagram did not create any restriction on him. However, if he were to reach out and make flesh contact, the demon sealing diagram would definitely release power to suppress him once it senses the aura of his bloodline. Suppress all the demons. Su Zimo murmured softly. That's not for sure. Before his sentence was completed, Su Zimo had already soared into the air and charged towards the demon sealing diagram. Initially, Tao Lord Immortal Sword was worried that something might happen with the intrusion of an unknown human cultivator. When he saw that, he sneered and relaxed. Although the demon sealing diagram did not possess much killing power, it was Tao Lord Immortal Sword's treasure after all and contained his spirit consciousness imprint. It was impossible for that intruder to remove the restrictions of the demon sealing diagram within a short period of time. Tao Lord Immortal Sword focused his gaze onto the ball of light and slashed down once again. Boom! The ball of light shuddered and its glow dimmed considerably. Its sword chi was no longer as sharp as it was initially also. Tao Lord Immortal Sword took a step forward and attempted to barge into the ball of light. However, his robes were sliced by sword chi before he could even approach the ball of light. He frowned. He was still a little off. On the other side, Su Zimo had already arrived beside the demon sealing diagram. He reached out for the damaged beast hide in midair with his right hand without hesitation. Although the demon sealing diagram was damaged and incomplete, it still exuded waves of terrifying ancient auras. The moment Su Zimo gripped the demon sealing diagram in his palm, it released an extremely frightening burst of power. When he was engulfed by that power, Su Zimo's bloodline seemed like it was frozen and stopped circulating. A tremendous might blanketed down and his bones and tendons cracked as though they could not withstand the burden. Su Zimo finally experienced what the 6 overlords and many fiend demons felt against the demon sealing diagram. It was as though his bloodline was sealed by an invisible power. Naturally, the first target from the burst power of the demon sealing diagram was Su Zimo's right hand. That was also the hand with the divine phoenix bone. Swoosh! A scarlet flame soared into the air. Su Zimo's right hand showed signs of transforming into a divine phoenix's claw. Right then, as though it could sense the aura of the divine phoenix bone, the demon sealing diagram shuddered and the power it released dissipated instantly. No matter how strong the demon sealing diagram and how many demons it could suppress, it could not take down the divine phoenix. The divine phoenix was an entity comparable to a deity. Su Zimo gripped the demon sealing diagram tightly and the flames released by the divine phoenix bone on his right hand spread towards the demon sealing diagram, erasing Tao Lord Immortal Sword's spirit consciousness imprint on it. Su Zimo retracted his palm and tapped his storage bag. The demon sealing diagram vanished, put away by him. Su Zimo's heart pounded furiously. That was a treasure. Even if he was not fated to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art, this trip was not wasted with the demon sealing diagram now in his possession. The entire process seemed very slow upon narration, but in fact, it occurred in the split of a moment. The group of demons merely saw Su Zimo charge into midair, grab the demon sealing diagram and stuff it into his storage bag. The demon sealing diagram merely gave a symbolic struggle for a brief moment before it was snatched away. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's expression changed. His connection to the demon sealing diagram was lost. Damn it! He cursed internally. Roar! Groar! Without the suppression of the demon sealing diagram, the situation on the battlefield changed. Instantly, a series of earth-shaking howls that were filled with rage echoed everywhere. You guys have a death wish. The old ape's eyes widened with sharp killing intent. He raised Imminent with both hands, strode forward and smashed it violently towards Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift in an engulfing manner. The other 5 overlords and many other high-level fiend demons attacked as well. As Su Zimo had expected, the demons were filled with extreme hatred towards the 3 Tao Lords by this point of the battle, with many fiend demons on the side of Thousand Demon Valley dead. Furthermore, the demons were just suppressed by the demon sealing diagram and had a belly full of pent-up frustration. The demon sealing diagram hovered high above earlier. If Su Zimo had not appeared all of a sudden to fight against the 3 Tao Lords, how many more demons would have fallen? Could the 6 overlords have even survived? From that perspective, Su Zimo saved them. Furthermore, all the demons witnessed the moment Su Zimo snatched the demon sealing diagram. The demon sealing diagram seemed like it wanted to suppress this man as well. In other words, there was a high chance that this was a demon. The moment they realized that, the demons attacked and merely targeted Tao Lord Cloud Rain's group. No fiend demon came after Su Zimo. Su Zimo took advantage of the chaos to escape and dashed towards the ball of light not far away. In a flash, he arrived close to it before long. It worked. He was already more than halfway to success at this point. Right now, the only one in his way was Tao Lord Immortal Sword. Leave it to me. Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded with a deep confidence. I don't care if you're a human or demon, die. Tao Lord Immortal Sword revealed a deep killing intent in his eyes and his hands conjured seals. He was about to release the lifeless sword art once again. All of a sudden, an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness shockwave burst forth from Su Zimo's left wrist. A scarlet beam of light burst forth and transformed into a soaring serpent the thickness of an arm in midair. It was engulfed in blazing flames and lunged towards Tao Lord Immortal Sword. It was an Essence Spirit secret skill. Although Tao Lord Extreme Fire had lost his physical body and he could not release most of his methods and dermic arts easily, there was a trump card he could use. Essence Spirit secret skills. The reason why he did not release his Essence Spirit secret skill earlier on against the 3 Tao Lords was because his Essence Spirit secret skill could only target a single person. Even if he released it and pushed back one of the 3 Tao Lords, he still had to deal with the other 2. However, the situation was different now. They could get their hands on the heaven-slaying sword art as long as Tao Lord Immortal Sword was pushed back. This Soaring Serpent Flame Deity was an Essence Spirit secret skill that Tao Lord Extreme Fire cultivated in the past and was renowned throughout the entire cultivation world. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's expression stiffened. His sword art had just been conjured in his hands, but it could not continue further. The lifeless sword art was a dermic art and could not defend against an Essence Spirit secret skill. If he wanted to defend against an Essence Spirit secret skill, he would have to rely on the power of his spirit consciousness or an Essence Spirit dermic weapon. Although he could kill this man before him if he released the lifeless sword art, he would be destroyed by the Soaring Serpent Flame Deity and he would lose his chance to obtain the heaven-slaying sword art forever. Tao Lord Immortal Sword could not afford to lose. With no other choice, Tao Lord Immortal Sword channeled his spirit consciousness and conjured an essence spirit secret skill. His glabella shone and a sword shimmering with a cold light burst forth. Chapter 885. Success. Chapter 885. Success. The sword that was conjured by the spirit consciousness was a legacy essence spirit secret skill of sword sect, the spirit-slaying sword. When cultivated to its limits, a single sword strike could slay the opponent's essence spirit. Legend has it that back in the ancient era, humans fought in order to break free from their fates as slaves. They fought valiantly against the primordial 9 races, who led the 100 races in a massive battle. The Sword Emperor overwhelmed everything in his path using his essence spirit secret skill. With the spirit-slaying sword alone, he slew countless experts of the 100 races and shocked the entire world. Everybody from the 100 races were scared out of their wits and nobody dared to go against him. Right now, the person Tao Lord Immortal Sword was fighting against was Tao Lord Extreme Fire. Although Su Zimo was not directly involved, he could still sense an extremely sharp aura surging his way. The spirit-slaying sword did not even touch him, but he felt waves of pain in his essence spirit. Within his consciousness, the creation green lotus swiveled slowly and petals blossomed layer by layer with a resplendent light. 45 lotus seeds burst forth from the lotus platform and circled around the black-haired essence spirit, protecting the latter within it. Quite a bit of power from the spirit-slaying sword was deflected. The sensation of pain vanished and the black-haired essence spirit returned to normal. Swiftly, the soaring serpent released by Tao Lord Extreme Fire that was blazing with raging flames in midair, had already clashed against the incoming sword. The spirit consciousnesses weaved against one another in silence. The void around the collision point of the two spirit consciousnesses became distorted and released a shuddering might. Su Zimo focused keenly, prepared to deal with any change that might happen. This was a fight between essence spirits and was extremely dangerous. Furthermore, they were dealing with a topmost Dharma characteristic expert in Tianhuang mainland. The number 1 of the previous Dharma characteristic ranking. The sword fought against the soaring serpent in midair. The sword slashed down and countless scarlet scales were sliced off the soaring serpent. However, the soaring serpent chomped down on the sword and the blade's glow dimmed considerably as well. The two spirit consciousnesses fought in midair and it was a stalemate. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's expression was grim. He had not expected that this cultivator who barged midway into the battlefield would be so troublesome to deal with. Of course he had not lost yet. The seal on the ball of light was still present and the sword chi around it was extremely sharp. If even he did not dare to advance, other Dharma characteristic experts would not dare to either. Right then, as the two spirit consciousnesses fought in midair in a stalemate, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded. Zimo, enter the tripod and smash inside. This was part of their two-men plan. Su Zimo did not hesitate at all and his glabella, revealing a bronze square tripod. He curled his body and leaped into the tripod, smashing it fiercely towards the ball of light. Tao Lord Immortal Sword scoffed coldly when he saw that. The sword chi released by the ball of light was extremely sharp and even a connate Tao Lord Dermic weapon might not be able to withstand it, let alone this battered, cracked bronze square tripod. Cling! Clang! When it sensed an external entity approaching, the ball of light released waves of sword chi one after another. They struck the bronze square tripod and the sound of metal clanging echoed. However, none of those sword chi managed to pierce the bronze square tripod. Before long, the bronze square tripod smashed into the ball of light and vanished in front of everyone's eyes. All the demons were in an uproar. Up till this point of the massive battle, nobody expected such a change to happen. The most bewildering thing was that neither the faction of Thousand Demon Valley nor the side of the 3 Tao Lords knew who the intruder was. In fact, they did not even know if he was a human cultivator or demon. He could have been a human cultivator. After all, he managed to pass through the engulfment of the demon ceiling diagram freely. However, it made sense to say that he was a fiend demon as well. Ever since this person appeared, he fought against the 3 Tao Lords and even snatched away the demon ceiling diagram, saving the demons in a sense. Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift frowned deeply. In that moment of distraction, they were encircled by the 6 overlords and nearly killed. Tao Lord Immortal Sword had a cold expression and said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoists, please hold on a while longer and leave things here to me. Don't worry, there's so many of us here. There's no way he can escape." To Tao Lord Immortal Sword, even though Su Zimo could enter the Ball of Light, the latter wouldn't be able to obtain the heaven-slaying sword art. The Ball of Light was wrapped by boundless sword chi both inside and outside. Hidden within the tripod, unwilling to expose his appearance, Su Zimo was like a blind person that was rummaging wildly within. There was no way he would be able to obtain the heaven-slaying sword art. Tao Lord Immortal Sword composed himself and his eyes shone with a cold glint. He conjured hand seals once more and created a gigantic long sword that slashed viciously at the Ball of Light. "I've got to destroy the seal as soon as possible," he lamented internally. Although he was not worried of Su Zimo obtaining the heaven-slaying sword art, he still felt uneasy. He had a feeling that an even greater change was about to happen. The moment the bronze square tripod entered the Ball of Light, Su Zimo knew that the heaven-slaying sword art was within his grasp. Tao Lord Immortal Sword was not wrong in his assumption. Under normal circumstances, by hiding in the bronze square tripod and not showing himself, Su Zimo was equivalent to being blinded. It was almost impossible for him to want to locate the heaven-slaying sword art within that ocean of boundless sword chi. If he released his spirit consciousness, it would be shredded into atoms instantly. However, in reality, Su Zimo had already located the heaven-slaying sword art before he entered the Ball of Light with his illumination dragon eye. This was something that none of the Dharma characteristic experts present could do. Therefore, although he was hidden within the bronze square tripod, Su Zimo was still able to speed towards the direction of the heaven-slaying sword art. Clang! Clang! The sound of sword chi striking the surface of the tripod echoed incessantly in a jarring manner. Su Zimo was secretly shocked. If not for the bronze square tripod, his physical body would have been riddled with holes by the endless sword chi. Although the bronze square tripod was already extremely battered, it helped him tide through countless crises ever since he obtained it. "We should be reaching it soon." Right then, the voice of Tao Lord Extreme Fire sounded. "How do you know, Senior?" Su Zimo could not help but ask out of curiosity. Although he had seen the location of the heaven-slaying sword art, Tao Lord Extreme Fire had not. Tao Lord Extreme Fire replied, "Listen carefully. It's clear that the sword chi around here is weaker. In other words, it means that we're about to close in to the ancient sword art." Su Zimo listened intently. Indeed, the sound of the sword chi striking the tripod decreased in volume and intensity. Before long, it was silent outside the tripod. Su Zimo guessed that they were close to the location of the heaven-slaying sword art and sent his spirit consciousness out to scan. Bingo! The area around them was peaceful without any sword chi at all. There was only a yellowed old scroll that hovered quietly in midair. Su Zimo put away the bronze square tripod and surveyed his surroundings in awe. 10 feet away from the ancient scroll, sword chi surged wild and rampantly like an ocean. It possessed a chilling, killing intent that seemed bent on destroying the entire world. Yet, everything was tranquil without any hint of animosity within 10 feet of the ancient scroll. There was an extreme difference between the two sceneries. Su Zimo took a few steps and gazed at the ancient scroll that was within his reach with a surreal feeling. If he did not know beforehand or witness it personally right now, he would not have believed that this ancient scroll before him was one of the 3 legendary ancient sword arts. The ancient scroll looked ordinary with a yellowish tinge, not unlike the books he had read back when he studied diligently in Pingyang Town. Su Zimo reached out and gripped the ancient scroll. Chapter 886. Appearance of a Grand Demon. Chapter 886. Appearance of a Grand Demon. Boom! Another sword strike slashed down and the ball of light quivered. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's eyes lit up as he channeled his blood chi and dermic powers. He was prepared to charge in and get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. Right then, the ball of light in midair suddenly dimmed and sword chi was dissipating. In the blink of an eye, everything vanished without a trace. The ball of light was gone. Right in front of everyone, the ball of light dispersed and disappeared. The stars that were originally moving with a chaotic trajectory up in the skies faded as well. Everyone within the battlefield was stunned. Even Tao Lord Cloud Rain, Fairy Snowdrift and the 6 overlords who were initially in an intense fight stopped for a brief moment, gazing over with astounded expressions. Instinctively, Tao Lord Cloud Rain and Fairy Snowdrift turned towards Tao Lord Immortal Sword. After all, Tao Lord Immortal Sword was the last to strike the ball of light with his sword before it disappeared. Did that mean that Tao Lord Immortal Sword got his hands on it? However, at that moment, Tao Lord Immortal Sword's expression was extremely grim. Naturally, he knew that the disappearance of the ball of light had nothing to do with his sword slash. There was only a single possibility for the disappearance of the ball of light. The reason why it vanished without a trace was because someone managed to get his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art. Right in front of him and the noses of many Dharma characteristic experts, someone managed to get hold of the heaven-slaying sword art. Was it that person in the bronze square tripod? But, how was that possible? Even if that person could locate the heaven-slaying sword art within the boundless sword chi ocean, how did he manage to vanish without a trace? A concealment technique. A thought crossed the mind of Tao Lord Immortal Sword. This person must have cultivated some sort of a concealment technique. Within the cultivation world, there were sects that specialized in concealment techniques. The sect that was the best in them was one of the 7 fiend sects, Hidden Death Sect. In fact, when cultivated to their peak, these concealment techniques can create a divine power. Invisibility. Legend has it that there is even a greater invisibility technique above invisibility that was considered as a supreme divine power. In fact, it was unfathomable and could even hide from the detection of a Mahayana patriarch. Within the world of demons, there were also some fiend demons that specialized in concealment techniques. The innate divine power of some high-level fiend demons was concealment itself. Although concealment techniques were mystifying, they had a weakness. One is not able to move too quickly or they will reveal openings and expose their location. In other words, the person that took away the heaven-slaying sword art must still be in the vicinity. At that thought, Tao Lord Immortal Sword released his massive spirit consciousness and scanned his surroundings continuously, trying to look for clues. Right then, something weird happened. A dark rift split open in the skies with a terrifying might. Complete silence engulfed the entire place as all the demons kept quiet out of fear. The expressions of the 6 overlords changed and they were even trembling slightly against the envelopment of that aura. The 3 Tao lords looked stricken and were motionless with ashen expressions. That was the aura of a grand demon. Great demons were equivalent to conjoint bodies, mighty figures of the human race. The commotion of this place caught the attention of a grand demon in Thousand Demon Valley at the end of the day. Grand demons could shake heaven and earth with a single lift of their hands. In the face of a grand demon, the 6 overlords and 3 Tao lords were nothing but ants that could be killed with a single squash. Suddenly, 2 bright lights burst forth from the rift that opened up in midair and shone down on the area. It scanned the place back and forth like a pair of ice-cold eyes. A grand demon was using a divine method to scan this area. Snap! On the other side, a rift opened up in the skies once again with a ghastly glow within. Another grand demon had appeared. Swoosh! Yet another terrifying spirit consciousness descended upon the area. Against the spirit consciousnesses, the Dharma characteristic experts present were like infants. They were scanned from head to toe and were read like books. It was another grand demon. 3 grand demons had appeared in succession. Tao Lord Immortal Sword was not the only one. The 3 grand demons thought of the same possibility as well, that the person who got his hands on the heaven-slaying sword art must have released some sort of concealment technique and was still in the vicinity. However, a while later, the 3 grand demons found nothing still. Tao Lord Immortal Sword frowned to himself. He exchanged blows with the person before, and the latter's cultivation was only at the Dharma characteristic realm at best. There was no way a concealment technique cultivated by a Dharma characteristic expert could avoid the detection of a grand demon. In other words, that person was not hiding in the vicinity with a concealment technique. There was a high chance that person was already gone. Another guess crossed Tao Lord Immortal Sword's mind. Suddenly, he recalled something. When the ball of light vanished earlier on, a momentary rift seemed to have opened up in the void where the ball of light was originally and closed swiftly after. That rift! Tao Lord Immortal Sword murmured softly. Could it be? Transference. Talisman. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed from above the firmaments. It was chilling to the bones and contained a boundless wrath. It was the same as Tao Lord Immortal Sword thought. This grand demon had arrived at the same conclusion. The wrath of a grand demon could shake heaven and earth. The three Tao Lords exchanged glances with dim gazes as they shook their heads. The three of them were going to be the first ones to suffer from the wrath of a grand demon. 5,000 kilometers away, two spirit demons were engaged in a fight within the forest and were injured from head to toe. All of a sudden, a sinister rift opened up beside the two spirit demons. Unable to dodge in time, the spirit demons were sucked in by the rift. On the other hand, a figure drenched in sweat leaped out, panting heavily. This figure was none other than Su Zimo, who had just obtained the heaven-slaying sword art. Tao Lord Immortal Sword's guess was not wrong. The reason why Su Zimo was able to escape from under everyone's nose was because of the minor transference talisman. The tear of a minor transference talisman could teleport a cultivator 5,000 kilometers away in a random direction. Su Zimo had just arrived in the forest, but he could already sense a shuddering aura coming from the end of the horizon far away. What sort of aura was this frightening? A grand demon has appeared. Before Su Zimo snapped out of his stupor, Tao Lord Extreme Fire's voice sounded with a hint of anxiousness as he said hurriedly. Hurry, hurry. Revert to your demon state and original appearance. Compose your aura and calm down. You must not expose yourself. Su Zimo did not hesitate, and the black-haired essence spirit retreated from his consciousness right away, allowing the scarlet-haired Een spirit to take over the center spot. In the blink of an eye, his black hair turned red as blood. The muscles on his face twitched and he regained his original appearance before long. With his refined features, he donned a new set of green robes and threw the ancient scroll in his hands towards his storage bag. However, immediately after, Su Zimo froze up. He was unable to put the heaven-slaying sword art into his storage bag. What's going on? Su Zimo was stumped. This was the first time he encountered something as such. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said, the heaven-slaying sword art is one of the three great ancient sword arts and has an immense killing aura. Although it is not revealed, your storage bag is unable to accommodate it. Even his storage bag could not accommodate it. Keep it hidden under your robes first and don't panic. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said in a deep voice. Nobody has seen the heaven-slaying sword art before. Even a grand demon won't be able to recognize it even if he discovers it. Su Zimo nodded and stuffed the heaven-slaying sword art into his robes. He took a deep breath and strode forward with one hand behind his back. The moment he did that, an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness spread over and engulfed the entire forest rapidly, Su Zimo included. Immediately after, two similarly terrifying spirit consciousnesses extended and descended as well. The grand demons appeared immediately after like shadows and had already chased here. Chapter 887, Shocking Truth. Chapter 887. Shocking Truth. Su Zimo had not expected the three grand demons to catch up so quickly. However, in hindsight, the tear of the minor transference talisman was bound to leave behind traces of aurach. Given the capabilities of grand demons, it was only logical that they could track down the remnant aura to this area. Previously, when he escaped from Dragonbone Valley with Lin Xuanji, they were hunted down by a divine dragon. Thankfully, a mysterious elderly man from Enigma Palace stood out. Otherwise, he would have been dead. It was also understandable why the spirit consciousness of a grand demon could catch up so quickly. Four nascent souls, the range of their spirit consciousness was between 5 to 50 kilometers. The range of a void reversion spirit consciousness was at least 50 kilometers. The range of a Dharma characteristic spirit consciousness was at least 500 kilometers. As for grand demons that were the same as conjoint bodies, the range of their spirit consciousnesses could extend to 5,000 kilometers. In other words, although Su Zimo crushed the minor transference talisman and was teleported 5,000 kilometers away, grand demons could arrive instantly with their spirit consciousnesses. Su Zimo was long prepared for this and traveled through the forest casually with a calm expression. When he sensed the descent of a grand demon's spirit consciousness, He pretended to be horrified as well and paused in his tracks. He kept mum out of fear, as though he was crippled by fear. The fear in his eyes was not completely faked either. Su Zimo was clear that if any of the 3 grand demons discovered that he was the one who took the heaven-slaying sword art, he would definitely be killed. 3 spirit consciousnesses scanned back and forth the forest for a long time. Within the forest, the atmosphere was extremely repressed. There was silence and a hint of spookiness. Even the sound of crickets had vanished entirely. Su Zimo did not even dare to take deep breaths. If Tao Lord Extreme Fire had not warned him earlier on, he would have been exposed right away. At that moment, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was silent as well. He had not said anything after the spirit consciousness of a grand demon descended. His essence spirit was hidden in the depths of the Mingwang prayer beads and his aura was removed completely. Tao Lord Extreme Fire understood the capabilities of a grand demon. They could catch him if even a trickle of his aura seeped out, let alone if he sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. The 3 spirit consciousnesses descended upon Su Zimo and scanned but to no avail as well. Right now, Su Zimo's hair was completely scarlet and he wore green robes. He had refined features that were in no way similar to how he looked when he snatched the heaven-slaying sword art. The only similarity was that they were both in human form. However, there were many fiend demons in human form within this forest and Su Zimo did not stand out. A long time later, the 3 terrifying spirit consciousnesses continued in their advance and vanished. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief and continued forward at a normal speed. Although he had many questions in his mind, he did not call out to Tao Lord Extreme Fire proactively. Tao Lord Extreme Fire did not speak either. Su Zimo had an odd expression. On the surface, the 3 grand demons seemed like they had already departed. However, Su Zimo still had a tingly sense in his spirit perception. Not far away, a figure soared into the air and sped into the distance in a seemingly hurried manner. The moment that figure moved, it exploded into a mist of blood by a stream of power and his physical and essence spirit was destroyed completely. The storage bag of that mid-level fiend demon spilled open, revealing many treasures on the ground. The 3 frightening spirit consciousnesses returned instantaneously after their departure. True enough. The 3 grand demons only pretended to leave but they were still lingering, watching slyly from the depths. The mid-level fiend demon that had just fallen died a rather wrongful death. If Su Zimo had interacted with Tao Lord Extreme Fire earlier on, he would have been discovered by the 3 grand demons instantly and would have died as well. Although the period of the 3 dozen breaths seemed short, they were filled with extreme danger. Su Zimo and Tao Lord Extreme Fire were in a psychological warfare with the 3 grand demons. The spirit consciousnesses of the 3 grand demons scanned through the forest once more but to no avail. Eventually, they retreated reluctantly. The tingly feeling vanished as well. It's fine now. Tao Lord Extreme Fire heaved a deep breath of relief and sent a spirit consciousness voice transmission. Are the 3 of them going to come back again? Su Zimo was still worried. No. Tao Lord Extreme Fire replied, actually, even the 3 grand demons can't verify that you're here in this area. After all, they deduced that you used a transference talisman. However, they can't tell whether you used a major or minor transference talisman. Su Zimo nodded silently. The major and minor transference talismans were different and their teleportation venues were worlds apart. Su Zimo looked back in the direction of where they came from and said, with the arrival of grand demons, the 3 Tao lords that ventured deep into the 1,000-demon valley to snatch the treasure must have already fallen. The 3 Tao lords are so frightening in combat, and all of them are titular disciples with dignified statuses as well. To think that they would end up buried in a demon region with a single mistake. Su Zimo lamented with a hint of sadness. To be honest, he still had some doubts in his mind. However, he could not pinpoint the exact issue. He just felt that something was amiss. Hee. Right then, as though he read Su Zimo's mind, Tao Lord Extreme Fire gave a strange chuckle. He asked, are you thinking that it's too easy for the 3 Tao lords who are so famous to die just like that? Su Zimo pondered for a moment and nodded. Indeed, that's the feeling I have. Logically, the 3 of them are the most important disciples of their respective sections. Since they chose to venture deep into somewhere as dangerous as the 1,000-demon valley, how could there be no mighty figure of their sex protecting them from the shadows? Furthermore, the three Tao Lords. Su Zimo hesitated but did not continue. Tao Lord Extreme Fire laughed and continued. Furthermore, their capabilities and treasures seemed lackluster. Yes, that's how it felt like, Su Zimo nodded. That's because the three Tao Lords you're seeing are merely external clones they cultivated. Although it was a simple statement from Tao Lord Extreme Fire, it was earth-shaking. Su Zimo froze on the spot, dumbfounded. His eyes were filled with disbelief and there was only a single thought in his mind. The three Tao Lords with torrential combat strength that fought against the 6 Overlords and all the demons were merely clones. If their clones were already this frightening, how strong were the three Tao Lords themselves? It was no wonder why, although Tao Lord Cloud Rain was a titular disciple and was the number 2 of the Dharma characteristic ranking 5,000 years ago, he only used a single perfect Tao Lord Dharmic weapon. At the same time, Fairy Snowdrift did not bring out any Dharmic weapons for the entire battle. At that thought, the fact that Tao Lord's Immortal Sword and Cloud Rain could be equipped with treasures such as a Tao Lord Dharmic weapon and the Demon Sealing Diagram was a sign of how extravagant their fortunes were. Senior, how could you tell? Su Zimo could not help but ask. Without replying him, Tao Lord Extreme Fire asked instead, do you know why our cultivation realm is referred to as the Dharma characteristic realm? Su Zimo blurted a reply. It's because at that realm, cultivators are able to conjure supreme heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Considered as the strongest method available to Dharma characteristic cultivators, they can go against the innate divine powers of high-level fiend demons. Suddenly, Su Zimo stopped speaking. In hindsight, the three Tao Lords had not released any heaven and earth Dharma characteristics the entire time. Chapter 888, Grudge. Chapter 888. Grudge. Tao Lord Extreme Fire said, although their clones look exactly the same as their original bodies and can release Dharmic arts, secret skills and make use of Dharmic weapons, in reality, there is only a stream of purely condensed spirit consciousness within their clones. Without a true essence spirit, they are unable to release their heaven and earth Dharma characteristics. Su Zimo was shocked and needed some time to absorb the information. Even without their heaven and earth Dharma characteristics, they are able to fight against so many demons and even suppress the 6 overlords with just their clones. These three Tao Lords truly live up to their reputation. Tao Lord Extreme Fire seemed indifferent towards Su Zimo's praises and said, don't forget, before the 3 of them came, the 6 overlords were already in a massive battle and had less than half their stamina remaining as well as diminished combat strength. Furthermore, the 3 of them returned fruitless after this venture into the Thousand Demon Valley with their clones destroyed. It's a great blow to their strength. Do you think that it's simple to cultivate a corporeal clone? Tao Lord Extreme Fire continued. To begin with, cloning techniques are extremely rare. Even if a cloning technique, a clone can't be created without anything less than 1,000 years of dedicated cultivation. In that case, the 3 Tao Lords have suffered immense losses, Su Zimo murmured softly. Tao Lord Extreme Fire nodded. Tao Lord Immortal Sword was the one who suffered the greatest losses. He lost out on everything completely. Not only did he lose his Demon Sealing Diagram and clone, he even promised great benefits to Cloud Rain and Snowdrift. This is a deep grudge sowed. However, you don't have to worry either. First, he doesn't know who took away the heaven-slaying sword art. Second, it doesn't matter even if he knows who you are. An ancient secret skill of this level has no master and is open to everyone. At the same time. Middle Continent, Sword Sect, Immortal Swords Tao Residence. Damn it! A maddened roar sounded from the Tao residence and caused many Sword Sect cultivators in the vicinity to pause in their tracks and look over. What happened to Senior Brother Immortal Sword? I've got no idea. A couple of days ago, he entered seclusion in his Tao residence with 2 other titular disciples and they have never appeared since. Senior Brother Immortal Sword's friends must also be paragons and monster incarnates of Tianhuang mainland. How amazing is that? Strange. Senior Brother Immortal Sword has always been mature and composed. Why did he suddenly look his cool? As everyone discussed, a sword light that resembled limpid autumn waters rippled over from the distance. The expressions of everyone changed. Senior Sister Qin. Greetings, Senior Sister Qin. All the sword cultivators bowed hurriedly with shimmering gazes, as though they were fearful of the newcomer. The newcomer wore a white dress that fluttered as her long hair fell across her face. With a sword behind her back, she was dainty like a fairy that descended upon the mortal realm. This senior sister Qin did not look old and was graceful. Her complexion was smooth, her eyes were bright and watery, and her long brows were slightly raised with a hint of elegance. She swept her gaze across and furrowed her brows slightly. With a hint of anger, she chided in a stern manner. "Why are you guys gossiping here instead of cultivating and sparring? Is senior brother Immortal Sword someone that you guys can gossip about?" "Why yes, you are right in disciplining us, senior sister Qin. We know our mistakes now. We'll go and cultivate diligently right away." Nobody dared to raise their heads and acknowledge their mistakes right away as they bowed and left. When they were far away, everyone looked around and gossiped once again when they were sure that the coast was clear. "What's the relationship between senior sister Qin and senior brother Immortal Sword? Why is she so defensive towards him? I heard that the two of them joined the sect at the same time and cultivated together. They can be considered as childhood sweethearts. Furthermore, senior brother Immortal Sword is so outstanding. Even any other girl in our sect or the fairies of other sects in Tianhuang mainland would be charmed by his talents, let alone senior sister Qin." "That's right. I heard that Fairy Snowdrift is even accompanying senior brother Immortal Sword in his seclusion this time round." On the other side, senior sister Qin had already arrived before the Dao residence. She had a hesitant expression and wanted to knock on the door, but did not know if she should. A moment later, she made up her mind and knocked gently, asking in a soft voice, "Senior brother Chen, are you all right?" Dao Lord Immortal Sword's surname was initially Chen. However, he was already the titular disciple of Sword Sect for more than 1,000 years now. Apart from those that joined the sect earlier on, nobody else knew about it. It was silent within the cave abode. Senior sister Qin waited for a moment and a look of disappointment filled her face. Right as she was about to leave, a voice sounded from within. "Pian Ran? I've caused you worry." "I'm fine." Dao Lord Immortal Sword's voice sounded. It was calm, as though he had already regained his cool. However, Qin Pian Ran could hear a hint of indifference in his tone. She hesitated for a long time before asking, "Senior brother Chen, I heard that Fairy Snowdrift is in your residence. Is it true?" "Pian Ran, there's nothing much. You can head back first." Dao Lord Immortal Sword's voice sounded and interrupted Qin Pian Ran outright. It was clearly cold now. Qin Pian Ran bit her cherry lips gently and her eyes reddened. She stomped her feet and turned to leave. Within the cave abode, the lights were dim and 3 figures were illuminated faintly. Dao Lord Cloud Rain curled his lips and brushed his gaze across Dao Lord Immortal Sword and Fairy Snowdrift. He said idly with a hint of playfulness, "To think that you're such a Casanova, brother Immortal Sword." Dao Lord Immortal Sword had a calm expression and replied indifferently, "Pian Ran is merely my junior sister, there's nothing between us. You don't have to think too much about it, Snowdrift." Fairy Snowdrift remained silent. A moment later, she changed the topic and asked, "Did you guys manage to discover the identity of the person that stole the treasure?" "I don't know." Dao Lord Cloud Rain pouted his lips. "That person did not make use of any symbolic methods or dharmic arts. I can't tell his background at all." Fairy Snowdrift nodded in agreement. She did not even know whether this was a demon or human, let alone uncover his background. However, suddenly, Dao Lord Cloud Rain spoke and paused, as though he recalled something. "Could you have any reservations, brother Cloud Rain?" Dao Lord Immortal Sword frowned gently. "Not really." Dao Lord Cloud Rain chuckled. "Actually, that Essence Spirit secret skill reminded me of an old friend. However, that old friend was a Dao Lord from 5,000 years ago and have already fallen." "Who is it?" Dao Lord Immortal Sword pressed further. Dao Lord Cloud Rain said nonchalantly, "His Dao title is Extreme Fire." Dao Lord Extreme Fire does sound familiar. I seem to have seen him somewhere before. Fairy Snowdrift frowned in deep thoughts. Slowly, Dao Lord Cloud Rain said, "I was number 2 on the Dharma characteristic ranking 5,000 years ago. Dao Lord Extreme Fire was number 1. It's him." The hearts of Dao Lord Immortal Sword and Fairy Snowdrift skipped a beat. Dao Lord Extreme Fire was renowned in the cultivation world back then. From 100 Refinement Sect, He was not only the top weapon refinement grandmaster, his combat strength surpassed his peers as well, and he was the #1 of the Dharma characteristic ranking. Lauded as the #1 fire tamer in 10,000 years, his reputation shook the entire world. Fairy Snowdrift shook her head. It can't be him. He has been missing for 5,000 years and should have fallen a long time ago. Furthermore, even if it was him, why would he need to take so long to deal with our clones given his strength? Tao Lord Cloud Rain shrugged. I know it can't be him either, that's why it was just a casual remark. Tao Lord Immortal Sword rose with a murderous look on his face as he said icily with a cold gaze. I don't care who he is, if I find out who he is, I'm going to hunt him to the depths of the world and kill him. I'm going to let him regret everything he did in Thousand Demon Valley. Tao Lord Cloud Rain narrowed his eyes and asked, Immortal Sword, even at this moment, you're not going to tell us what was within the ball of light? This matter is a secret pertaining to my sect, sorry. Tao Lord Immortal Sword rejected the question with a casual statement. Chapter 889, Brothers. Chapter 889. Brothers. A month later. The storm at the Thousand Demon Meet had gradually subsided. During this period of time, the most discussed matter by all demons was not the Blood Sea cultivation trip, but the earth-shaking battle caused by the stars in daylight phenomenon. The fiend demons lucky enough to witness that battle were all extremely excited as they returned to their respective communities with pride on their faces. After all, it was a battle between top-tier Dharma characteristic demons and human cultivators. In the end, even the grand demons appeared. This was not something that everybody could get a chance to experience. For most fiend demons in Thousand Demon Valley, they might never even get to see a grand demon once in their lifetime. It was even more impossible for them to witness a grand demon in action. For the demons, an experience as such was an irreplaceable wealth. Naturally, some fiend demons were able to make use of their comprehensions from this encounter and advance further in their cultivations. Howling Moon Mountain. After the Thousand Demon Meet, a piece of news was spread. One of Howling Moon Mountain's 5 territorial lords was of the same race as Ape Chatter Ridge's Overlord and was placed in high regard. The status of Howling Moon Mountain was naturally elevated as well. Initially, there were some demon regions in the vicinity that harbored designs on Howling Moon Mountain. However, they gave up on their plans later on. Naturally, there was a lively celebration by the demons for the return of Monkey and the others, and everyone enjoyed themselves. Nighttime. The spirit tiger hugged Monkey by the shoulder and rambled nonsense in a drunken state. He talked about how he was going to stay in this mountain with Ching Ching in the future and give birth to many children together. Ching Ching glared at the spirit tiger. However, she did not get angered when she saw how intoxicated he was. Monkey and Solitary Cloud drank heartily with large bowls. Both of them were untamed by nature and did not hold back at all. Little Fox propped up a wine glass with both hands and sipped occasionally with a hint of melancholy in her eyes. You're still worried about First. Ching Ching was sensitive and could naturally tell that Little Fox was distracted. She consoled the latter, Don't worry, Foxy. First is capable with many tricks up his sleeves. Hasn't he already escaped? He will definitely be fine. Yes. Little Fox nodded but sighed again. However, those are grand demons. Is young master able to escape from the detection of grand demons? Suddenly, a voice sounded in the minds of the 5 people. All of you, come to my cave abode. Don't make a fuss. Little Fox spun around and her sorrow turned into joy immediately. She could not help but smile. It's First. The spirit tiger shuddered and sobered up as well. The drunkenness in his eyes was already gone. Without hesitation, Monkey and the others rose and headed towards Su Zimo's cave abode at the top of the mountain. Before they could knock, the door of the cave abode already opened up. None of them were surprised as they swarmed in. Although the cave abode was dimly lit, the 5 of them were unaffected. At the front was a green figure with shoulder-length scarlet hair and refined features. He was none other than Su Zimo, who was looking at everyone with a smile. Unknowingly, Su Zimo had already infiltrated this place stealthily without anyone knowing. Young master. Little Fox called softly, and she could not help herself but lunge forward into Su Zimo's embrace. I'm fine, I've caused everyone to worry. Su Zimo smiled as he patted Little Fox on the shoulder. Monkey and the others exchanged glances and burst into laughter when they saw this. Ching teased, "We haven't been worried, but there was indeed a little fox who could not eat or sleep every day with her thoughts wandering everywhere." Little Fox felt her cheeks blush and her ears turning red at those words. She whimpered and reverted into her true form before darting into Xueqi's embrace. She tugged at his robes with her tiny paws and only exposed a pair of gigantic black eyes, looking and blinking at everyone. Everyone laughed even more wildly. Their laughter and smiles came from the bottom of their hearts and were pure and innocent. Apart from the joy of teasing Little Fox, they were also delighted at the sight of Xueqi safe and sound. Initially, Xueqi wanted to say something to everyone. However, he could not bring himself to do it when he saw their smiles. "How have you guys been for the past month?" A moment later, Xueqi asked, "Has there been anyone who came in search of me?" "No." The spirit tiger waved it off casually and said in a nonchalant manner, "Too many things happened at the Thousand Demon Meet. Nobody is even bothered about you anymore. First, do you know that the Overlord of Levitating Goat Peak who hunted you down was killed?" The spirit tiger said in a mysterious manner with a gloating expression. Solitary Cloud nodded as well. Levitating Goat Peak is in chaos with everyone fighting for the status of the Overlord. There are also many fiend demons creating a fuss saying that they want to head to the cultivation world and seek revenge for their fallen overlord. Revenge in the cultivation world? Xueqi raised his brows perplexedly. "That's right," the spirit tiger replied. "The demons claim that the overlord of Levitating Goat Peak was killed by the 3 Dharma characteristic Tao lords." "Ha ha!" Xueqi could not help but laugh. His amusement was understandable. The arrival of the 3 Tao lords was way too coincidental and they took the blame for him. After all, even if anybody racked their minds, none of them would have expected an overlord to die in the hands of a low-leveled fiend demon. Coincidentally, the 3 Tao lords appeared in Thousand Demon Valley to vie for the treasure and even fought against all the demons. It was clear who the killers were. Even if Xueqi were to come clean right now, nobody would believe him. Everyone would merely think that he was trying to brag with nonsensical claims. The 6 of them conversed for a long time, but there was a strange feeling in the air. There was a hint of departure sorrow amidst their joyful chatter. Gradually, everyone went silent. Finally, Monkey was the first to break the silence and asked, "You're going to leave?" "Yes." Xueqi did not hide the fact and nodded. "I've got kin and old friends back in the cultivation world. I've stayed here for 100 years and I've missed them, so I want to visit them. Furthermore, there's something that I have to do." The thing that Xueqi was referring to was escorting Tao Lord Extreme Fire back to 100 Refinement Sect safely. Tao Lord Extreme Fire saved Xueqi's life twice and imparted immense knowledge to the latter. To Xueqi, Tao Lord Extreme Fire was like a teacher and a friend. This was something that he had to do no matter what. Monkey and the others did not object. They knew that Xueqi would not change his mind once he decided on something. The spirit tiger patted his chest. "First, we're brothers and we shall stick together. We'll follow you everywhere. At the most, you can tell everyone that we're your spirit beast pets." Monkey nodded as well. "Life is only enjoyable when we are together. Otherwise, it's meaningless even if we rule over this mountain." Ching and Little Fox nodded in agreement as well. Xueqi felt his nose turn stuffy when he looked at everyone. In fact, his eyes reddened also. Fiend demons were faced with immense danger within the cultivation world. The spirit tiger knew that fact as well. However, he did not hesitate and was even willing to lower his status to be referred to as a spirit beast pet. Monkey's dream had always been to become the king of a mountain and rule over it completely. Right now, he had accomplished it. However, for the sake of their brotherhood, he was willing to give that up. Although Xueqi had many thoughts on his mind, he could not bring himself to say them. A sigh sounded within the Ming Wang prayer beads. Even Tao Lord Extreme Fire could not help but acknowledge that although they were of different races, these demons were true and sincere. These were truly relationships worth keeping and fighting to the death for. You're tuning in to the Xueqi's Martial Arts Saga YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.